Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto and Sakura make a strong relationship and got harem? And subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. She was standing in front of his apartment trying to knock on the door but she couldn't. Why was that happening? Was she afraid of something? And if she was, what would that be? Was she afraid of his reaction by seeing her again after she had come yesterday? Was she afraid of looking into his eyes and telling him what she was denying to tell all this time? When she finally found all the courage she could gather, she took a deep breath and knocked on the door. 2 minutes later the door opened and a blond man appeared in front of her. They both were staring into each other's eyes without speaking. Sakura was determined to make things better this time, but when she looked at him, she got lost into those blue oceanic eyes of his and couldn't speak. She wanted to shout "I love you" and let the whole world know how much he meant to her. She just couldn't. Naruto couldn't speak. Looking at those green emerald eyes of hers, he was dreaming of his life with her by his side. He was dreaming of a family of himself and Sakura with many children. He was dreaming of a family he never had, but that couldn't happen. Not until she does what he wanted her to do, what he needed to hear from her. He tried to escape from her gaze and looked away. "What do you want?" he asked with a cold voice. Sakura saw his anger on his face, but she couldn't blame him for that. She knew that everything was happening because he was hurt after what she had said and done to him. She looked down at the floor and said waveringly, I came to apologize. I really don't know what got into me. I am sorry." She stopped when she felt a gripe in her stomach. She knew what it was. It was her longing to be with him once again. To be into his strong arms which made her melt in them. She looked up and continued trying to keep her tears not to fall. "Please Naruto, forgive me." Naruto saw how much Sakura wanted him to go back to her. He saw how much he meant for her, but that wasn't enough. He needed more. He wanted her to shout out loud, "I love you." Naruto knew how much Sakura loved him by her actions. They were 2 years together, and Sakura did everything for him. When he was feeling down, she was there for him with her embrace wide open just for him. When he was sick, she was there by his side day and night until he would get better. Naruto wanted those actions to fit in that little phrase and say it for him, but Sakura's ego wouldn't let her do it. Naruto spent many nights thinking of why Sakura was acting like that. Why, even though she could do anything for him, at the same time she couldn't say how much she loved him. What was holding her back? What was she afraid of? In the first year of their relationship, Naruto never pushed her for that. He knew that she needed time, and so he gave her time. In the second year, he tried many times to make her say it. There were times when he would say to her, "I love you," but he would always get the same answer, "Me too." Of course, like all couples, they had their fights, but these fights never subdued them for long. There were times when Naruto thought that maybe those fights were the cause of Sakura's actions, but he never really believed in that thought. He tried many times to find a reason, but he couldn't find any, and here he was standing in front of her waiting for him to forgive her and be together again. But unfortunately for Sakura, he had an ego too, and he wouldn't go back on this one. "Sakura, if you want to be together again, you have to say it. You have to say that you love me," Naruto said with a desperately voice and a sad expression in his eyes. "I do." Naruto came a quick, desperate answer from Sakura. Naruto was desperate. Sakura was desperate. They both were desperate, and yet they weren't together. They could be happy and yet they weren't, and all these were happening because of their ego. "You know what I mean, Sakura," Naruto said, looking into her green emerald eyes. "Naruto, she couldn't say it, and she felt guilty. A piece of her wanted to shout out loud, "I love you," but something deep in her heart was whispering not to. She kneeled down and cupped her face with her hands. "I am sorry, Naruto. I just can't," she said while crying. Naruto couldn't stand watching his cherry blossom suffering. His heart was ready to forget everything, go near her and tell her that everything would be fine and kiss her, but at the end he stopped like something was pulling him back. He clenched his hips trying to get the strength. He wanted to say what would come out from his mouth. "That's not what I want to hear," he said, and closed the door behind him with a disappointed look on his face. When Naruto closed the door, he collapsed. He was sitting down on the floor with his back against the door, and his right hand sliding through his hair. He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't stand seeing his cherry blossom suffering like this, and he couldn't stand his pain either. He wanted to open the door and run to her and take her into his arms, telling her that everything would be okay. But his ego didn't let him, and so he stayed there feeling the pain deep in his heart. Sakura stayed there with her eyes wide opened and full of tears. Why? Why I can't do this when it's just a little phrase which anyone can say it? Why? She was mad at herself for not having the courage or the strength to say that phrase that means a lot for every living human in this world. Sakura stood up and wiped out her tears. She looked at the door for the last time and left away, knowing that if she would try to persuade him and open the door she would have failed. The next morning found Sakura in a bad shape as she was in that state 3 weeks now. She didn't feel like going to work. She was crushing from the inside out, not only emotionally but physically too. She couldn't take this anymore. She had to find the reason for her denial. Maybe I should take some advice from Ino Sakura while she was drinking a cup of tea. While she was walking through the streets of Konoha, Sakura was trying to find a way of telling her best friend about her problem. She never told Ino about her denial of telling the phrase, and the thought of a mad Ino for keeping secrets from her made her chill. She reached Ino's apartment and knocked on the door. She waited for a while but no one opened the door. She must be on a mission, Sakura thought, and started to leave the apartment when someone called her name. Sakura? She turned around and saw Hinata looking at her with a curious face. Oh, hey Hinata, how are you today? Sakura asked with a weak smile. I am fine, Sakura, thank you, Hinata answered. When she walked closer to her, Hinata saw that the pink-haired woman was a mess. Her eyes were swollen from the cry, her hair was a mess and her skin was pale. A worried look formed on Hinata's face. Oh my god, Sakura, what happened to yourself? Are you feeling alright? She asked worriedly. I am fine, Hinata, I am just tired from the work at the hospital. That's all, Sakura answered with a fake smile again. Hinata understood that something wasn't going right, but she couldn't push Sakura to tell her problems. Oh, okay then. Get some rest, okay? Hinata said as Sakura nodded, and Hinata started walking away when she suddenly stopped and turned around. You know, Sakura, sometimes a walk through the park makes you think and find solutions to your problems, she said with a small smile and started walking away. Sakura was taken aback by Hinata's words. How did she know about me having problems? Sakura thought while watching Hinata walking away. Maybe she is right, maybe a walk through the park will help me to solve my problems, Sakura said to herself as she started walking. While Sakura was walking through the paths of the park, many thoughts were spinning into her mind. Questions if her denial was due to the fact that she might not deserve Naruto for what she had done to him back then when they were kids. Questions of what she was afraid of saying the phrase. Suddenly she stopped walking when she realized that she was standing in front of a bench. Not any bench, but the bench that Sasuke laid her down back when he left Konoha. She sat down on the bench and memories of that night flashed into her mind. Flashback. She was standing there with her eyes full of tears, confessing her feelings towards Sasuke. Sasuke, I am so in love with you, I cannot stand it. If you would only be with me, I promise I will never let you regret it. Every day will be joy. I can give you happiness. I will do anything for you, Sasuke. So please, I am begging you, don't walk away. I will even help you get your revenge. I will do whatever it takes to make it happen, I swear. So stay here with me, and if you can't, then take me with you, Sasuke, she said sobbing. After a few seconds, Sasuke looked at her and said with a smile, you haven't changed. You are still annoying. End of flashback. With the thought of that night, tears started forming into her eyes. She couldn't believe that she said all those words to just take one simple reply. You are annoying. You are annoying. You are annoying. That phrase made her feel that someone was cutting her heart with a kunai. With that memory suddenly, just like a flash, her confession towards Naruto came into her mind. Flashback. Sakura was standing in front of a stunned Naruto when he asked her to repeat what she said a few seconds ago. What I said to Naruto is that I love you, Sakura said, looking away from his eyes. Sakura hugged him and said, Sasuke-kun just keeps getting away from me, but Naruto, you have always stayed by my side. You have encouraged me. I finally realized who you really are, Naruto. You are the hero who protected the village and is beloved by everyone in it. I am just one of them. You have become this great and important man, and I have been watching from right next to him. But all Sasuke has done is commit crimes and break my heart. More and more he has become a different person than he was, so distant. But you, Naruto, you are right here where I can touch you like this. You make me feel safe. Right now, from the bottom of my heart I dash. But she couldn't finish her phrase when Naruto grabbed her from her shoulders and said, "Give me a break, Sakura-chan, I told you a joke isn't funny." They stared at each other's eyes, and after a few seconds, Sakura tried to convince him that her confession wasn't fake. That's when Naruto squeezed her shoulders and said, looking into her eyes with a serious look, "I hate people who lie to themselves." And a flashback. That final memory made her heart break into thousands of pieces. She couldn't believe that she confessed for a second time, and the only thing she got was a breaking phrase again. "I hate people who lie to themselves. I hate people who lie to themselves. I hate people who lie to themselves." Her confession towards Naruto was a fake one, but the thought of rejecting her for a second time with a breaking phrase again made her feel that someone not only was cutting her heart, but also he was taking it out with his hands. She stayed there for a while crying and sobbing when she suddenly realized that the reason for her denial saying the phrase to Naruto was because she got rejected 2 times after her confessions. She was afraid saying that word because if she would ever say it again, she would get hurt. That's when a smile formed on her face. "Naruto loves me more than anything in this world. He will never break my heart if I say to him how much I love him," Sakura said, and started to run towards Naruto's apartment. When she finally got there, she knocked on the door and waited. After 3 minutes of waiting, Sakura thought that he might be at the training grounds, and so she started bearing at the training fields when someone called her name. "Hey Sakura, what's the rush?" She turned around to see Konohamaru grinning. "Oh, hey Konohamaru, I am looking for Naruto. Have you seen him today?" Sakura asked with a smile. "Naruto? Didn't you know?" Konohamaru asked. "No, what?" Sakura asked, confused. "Naruto is on a mission. Lady Tsunade called him this morning and sent him on a mission," the boy answered. "And why didn't she call me?" "I am a part of the team too," Sakura asked. "I don't know, but Naruto is alone on this mission, so it mustn't be some dangerous mission. So don't worry," said Konohamaru with a smile. Sakura thanked the boy and left for Tsunade's office. She wanted to learn how long it would take Naruto to finish the mission. At the Hokage's office, Lady Tsunade was sitting behind her desk doing some paperwork. She hated that work more than anything else, but the only thing she could do was complain to Shizen. But today didn't complain, and that made Shizen worried about her. "Lady Tsunade, did something happen?" Shizen asked while she was giving some papers to Tsunade. "Why are you asking?" Tsunade asked while singing the paper. "I am asking because you haven't complained about the paperwork today, and you are too quiet. Is there something that bothers you?" she asked with a worried look on her face. Tsunade looked down at her desk and said, "It's about Naruto. When he came here I saw pain into his eyes, and when I gave him the mission, which was only a C rank mission, he didn't complain." She paused for a moment, and said, looking up at Shizen, "This isn't the Naruto I know. Maybe he had a fight with Sakura again, but don't worry, things will fix just as always," Shizen said with a smile. Tsunade tried to speak when a knock came from the door. "Enter," the Hokage said with a serious voice. As the door opened, a pink-haired woman appeared. "What is the matter, Sakura?" Tsunade asked with curiosity. "Lady Tsunade, I came here to ask when Naruto will return from his mission," Sakura said waveringly. She didn't want her Shursu to learn that she and Naruto had a fight again. It would only make her sad because Tsunade loved those two like her children she never had, and Sakura didn't want her Shursu to get sad. "And why do you want to know? Did something happen between you and Naruto again?" Tsunade asked, wanting to know what was going on with those two again. Sakura was taken aback by Tsunade's question. She didn't expect her to find out so quickly about their problems. Fortunately for Sakura, she had good news, so it wouldn't mind if she would tell the truth. "Naruto and I had a fight. It was my fault really, but things are fine now, so I was looking for him to apologize. But I found out that he is on a mission, and I came here to learn when he is coming back," Sakura said with a smile, trying to convince Tsunade that everything was going to be just fine. The Hokage looked into her eyes for a while, trying to find that all Sakura said were true. After a few moments, Tsunade sighed and said, "Naruto will be back in 2 weeks. Sakura thanked her Shursu and turned to leave when Tsunade spoke. "Sakura, just try not to fight again, okay?" Sakura nodded and left the office, leaving the two women looking at the door. Shizen grabbed Tsunade's shoulder and said, "Do not worry, everything will be just fine." It was a cloudy evening when Ino decided to take a walk and relax after she had come from a long 3-month mission. She was walking through the park when she saw a pink-haired woman sitting on a bench watching some children playing around. She knew who that woman was. It was Sakura, her best friend. She formed a smile and went close to her, but when she saw the sorrow in her eyes, her smile left her and a worried look replaced it. She sat next to her and called her name, but Sakura didn't hear her. It was like she was daydreaming and lost connection with reality. Ino placed her right hand on Sakura's shoulder and said, "Sakura, are you alright?" Sakura at first got surprised, but when she calmed down she said with weak voice, "Hey Ino, you scared me there for a second. Sorry about that. I called your name but you didn't seem to notice me," she said with a serious look. "Don't worry, it's fine. No need to apologize," she said with a fake smile. Ino knew that the smile was a fake one. She knew her better than anyone else when the pink hair was lying. She grabbed Sakura's hand and said softly, "Sakura, what's going on? Why are you so down?" Sakura couldn't lie to her best friend. She was like a sister to her, and she never kept a secret away from her. That moment Sakura was like a glass which had broken into thousands of pieces, and she needed a friend to comfort her. She looked into Ino's eyes and said in a whisper, "And eyes ready to get watered, me and Naruto broke up." Ino's eyes winded at Sakura's words. "What? Sakura, are you serious? Why? What happened?" she asked with a look full of worry and surprise. And then just like a flash, memories of that night came into Sakura's mind. Memories that she tried to forget because of the pain they were causing her. "We had a fight and it's my fault, and I don't know what to do," she said, full of tears and immersed into Ino's embrace. Ino hugged her tightly, trying to calm her down. "Sakura, don't worry, I am sure it's just a misunderstanding. Things will get better like always, you will see," she said with a calm voice. Sakura then left from Ino's embrace and looked up at her. "You don't understand, Ino. It's all over now and it's my fault," she said, full of guilt, and immersed again into Ino's hug. Ino was very concerned about Sakura. How was it Sakura's fault? What did she do that made the couple break up? She pushed Sakura so she can look at her and asked Sakura, "What happened between you and Naruto?" Sakura looked away from Ino's look and said with shame, I couldn't tell Naruto that I love him." Ino was taken aback by Sakura's words. How was that possible? She was certain that her best friend loved Naruto. They had been through a lot until they got together, and yet Sakura hadn't told him how much she loved him. How is that possible after 2 years of relationship? All those questions were spinning into her mind without any answers. She cleared her mind and asked calmly, "Sakura, tell me exactly what happened." Sakura took a deep breath and said, "It's been 2 months now since that night. You were on a mission, so I didn't get the chance to tell you about that night. 2 months ago Naruto and I had our anniversary for being together for 2 years as a couple." Sakura smiled for a while and looked up at the sky and continued, "Naruto and I made love, but it was different from other times. It was the most beautiful moment I have ever experienced. That moment, I felt that I was the luckiest, the happiest woman on the earth." Sakura's smile left her when the memory of what happened next flashed into her mind. She looked down at the floor and said, "But after that, the nightmare begun." Flashback. Naruto was lying on the bed with Sakura in his arms when he suddenly kissed her softly on her lips and said, "I love you, my cherry blossom." Sakura smiled and kissed him back and said, "Me too, Naruto." "You too what?" he asked, trying to hear what he wanted to hear for 2 years now. She tried to answer back but she couldn't. She looked up at Naruto. "What you just said, I feel it too," she said, and got closer to kiss him, but Naruto sat up and turned his face around, avoiding her kiss. Sakura got confused by Naruto's actions. She cupped with her right hand Naruto's left cheek, forcing the blonde man to look at her. "What is the matter, Naruto?" she asked with curiosity. Naruto then placed his hand above Sakura's and said, "Say that you love me." "I do," she said with a smile. "I want to hear it." "I want you to say, Naruto, I love you," he said, holding her hands. Sakura stared into his eyes for a while and then she tried to speak, "Naruto, I am." She looked away and tried again, "Naruto, I am." Naruto couldn't take it anymore. He got up from the bed, turning his back at her, and asked, "Why are you so afraid to say it?" Sakura then got up from the bed and hugged Naruto from behind and said, "Naruto, you know that my feelings for you are strong. Are they, Sakura-chan?" Naruto asked with a sarcastic tone and got out from her embrace. He then grabbed her from her shoulders and said, looking into her eyes, "Sakura-chan, we have been together for 2 years now, and you never told me that phrase. You haven't said to me the phrase I love you." He took a deep breath and continued, "At first I thought you needed time and so I gave you time, but I can't take it anymore. I want to hear it from you. It means everything to me." Sakura tried to speak, but Naruto stopped her when he let go of her and turned around and said with a pain in his guts, I guess that your love for Sasuke was stronger than your love for me. Sakura got back from what Naruto said and got mad from that. What? Naruto, take that back. You know that's not true, she said with a loud voice. It's true, Sakura, and you know it. Sometimes I don't know if you are with me because you feel something for me or because Sasuke is married to someone else, he said with an even louder voice. Sakura's eyes opened wide at Naruto's words. I can't believe what you just said right now. Her eyes started to water. Are you saying that I am still in love with Sasuke and that I am using you? She asked, looking into his eyes, trying to believe that she heard wrong. Naruto felt guilty of what he said. He didn't mean it like that. I didn't. He couldn't finish his phrase when Sakura slapped him on his face. You didn't know what Naruto was? How could you? How could you say that I am using you? Her tears had already started to fall. My feelings for you, Naruto, are stronger than anything else. I will do anything for you, Naruto. Naruto then took her from her shoulders and said, looking into her eyes, if what you said is true, then say it. Say that you love me. Sakura was staring into his eyes, trying to speak. I am. She stopped and looked away, avoiding his gaze. Naruto shook her and said, say it, please. She couldn't. She just couldn't. I am sorry, Naruto, she said, and started crying even more. Naruto then let go of her and said while dressing up, then there is nothing left to say, Sakura. Sakura's eyes winded. She couldn't believe what Naruto said. You mean it's over? Tears started to form once again. Are we over? She asked again while Naruto was ready to leave. He stopped and turned around, staring at her. Sorry, Sakura-chan. This is the only way to make you understand how much you mean to me. Naruto thought for a moment. Not wanting her to see how much it hurt him to see her like that, he turned his back and said, when you decide to say it, you know where to find me. He looked for a last time behind him and left the apartment, leaving the young woman heartbroken. End of flashback. Sakura was looking down at the floor with her eyes dropping tears. Ever since that night I can't sleep or eat, and at nights when I close my eyes, the memories of him leaving the apartment flash into my mind and I start crying. I am really a mess, Ino, she said, and immersed into Ino's embrace. Ino was feeling sorry about her friend. She couldn't stand watching her in that state, but at the same time she was a bit mad with her. Sakura, have you She couldn't finish her question when she felt drops of water falling on her face. It's going to rain, she thought, looking up at the sky. She pushed Sakura away and said, looking into her swollen eyes, Sakura, let's go at my place to talk. I have many questions to ask you about the situation. Sakura knew that her friend was worried and that she wanted to help her. She was ready to accept her offer when she remembered something. I don't think that is a good idea, Ino. Sasuke will probably be there with Amy, and I am sure he will want to spend the day with you as a family since you were away for 3 months, she said with a weak smile. She was happy with those two being together, and she was more happy when those two had a child. Don't be silly, Sakura, he wouldn't mind, and knowing him very well, when he finds out about your problem he will get worried. For him you are like his sister he never had, and beside, Sasuke took little Amy and went to a festival 2 hours from here, Ino said, grubbing Sakura from her grips, and started walking towards her house. Sakura was sitting on a couch looking at the pictures that were placed on a small table in front of her while Ino was in the kitchen making tea for both of them. The first picture was displaying Ino's and Sasuke's wedding. They looked so happy. They were still happy together. Sasuke loved his wife more than anything else. He was so kind and loving to her. He wasn't the man he used to be back then when dark conquered his soul. The second picture was displaying 3 figures. There was Ino holding little Amy in her arms and Sasuke by her side with a wide smile and eyes which they were saying that he was the happiest man in the world. And finally, the third picture was displaying Naruto holding little Amy into his arms. He loved that little girl like she was his own child. When he wasn't on a mission he would pass by Sasuke's house to see little Amy and play with her. Sakura remembered the day when Ino and Sasuke had their anniversary and Naruto offered himself to babysit little Amy. When they came back, Ino and Sasuke found Naruto sleeping on the couch holding little Amy in his arms. Sakura was thinking how she and Naruto came to this point. She wanted to spend the rest of her life with Naruto, but she knew that it was too late now. Bad timing, she said in a whisper, and a single tear fell from her right eye. But timing for what? Ino said and handed Sakura a cup of tea. Nothing really, Sakura said, trying to smile. So how things are going with you, Sasuke and Amy? She asked, trying to change the subject. Things are fine. Although Amy drives me crazy sometimes at nights, but thankfully I have Sasuke and make things better. As for Sasuke, let's say that he never stops surprising me, Ino answered with a smile and eyes full of love and happiness. Sakura looked at the picture with Naruto and Amy and said with a painful look and a weak smile, good to hear it. I am really happy for both of you. Looking at the picture was causing her pain. Pain because everything was over. Pain because it was too late now. It was too late for telling him that she loved him. It was too late to be together again. It was too late for everything. Ino saw how much pain Sakura was feeling that moment, and that made her heart melt. Thank you, Sakura, but now we are talking about you, Ino said with seriousness. Sakura's eyes didn't leave the picture. She nodded and waited for Ino to ask what she needed to know. Sakura, you have been with Naruto 2 years now. How come you haven't told to him that you loved him? Ino asked her with a soft voice but full of curiosity. I didn't know the reason for my denial. For days I was trying really hard to find out the reasons. Even at night I was trying to find answers to my questions, but nothing happened, Sakura said with a sad expression. Don't you love him, Sakura? Ino asked, confused. Of course I do, Ino. I show my love to him. I mean, I used to show my love for him by my actions, Sakura answered. Sakura, sometimes actions are not enough. Sometimes words are needed to confirm your feelings. It's like a seal that once you perform the hand signs you have to say the name of the jutsu to be completed. That way the seal will never break because it is strong, Ino said in a teaching tone. Sakura looked at Ino with frustration and said, do you think I don't know that? I tried many times to tell him without success. I could tell to you or to anyone else that I love him, but when it came to him, she looked at the floor and continued with a desperate tone, I just couldn't. Ino was listening to Sakura carefully when she realized something. Sakura, you used past simple. Does this mean that you have found out the reason? She asked with curiosity. Sakura only nodded when Ino asked again, does that reason blocks you from telling him that you love him? Sakura formed a weak smile and answered no. Then why haven't you run off to him and tell him yet? Ino asked, frustrated. Sakura's smile left her and looked at the picture where Naruto was holding little Amy. Because it is too late, she replied back, and tears started falling once again. Ino was more confused than ever. How is that possible? Why is it too late? What has occurred that she can't tell him she loves him? These thoughts were driving her crazy while she was observing her actions. Suddenly it clicked. Back at the park, Sakura was watching some kids playing around, and now she was looking at the picture. Her eyes winded and said with a loud voice, oh my god, Sakura, you are pregnant. Sakura was taken aback from Ino's suddenly action. She looked at her and said, yes, Ino. I am 2 months pregnant. Ino gave Sakura a big hug, and when she released her she asked, when did you find out? A month ago, Sakura replied. Ino then got serious and said with a sigh, let me guess, you haven't told him yet. Sakura looked at the floor and shook her head when she raised her head again and pleaded, you have to promise me that you will not tell Naruto. Ino was taken aback from Sakura's plead. Aren't you going to tell him about the baby? She questioned her friend. Sakura then turned around not knowing what to reply. She only shrugged. Ino then placed her hand on Sakura's shoulder and said with a serious tone, why did you shrug? We are talking about a baby here and you just shrugged? Naruto is the father, and he has the right to know. I know that, Ino, but please promise me you won't tell him, Sakura said after Ino's little lecture. She was afraid that when Naruto would find out about the baby he would run back, and she didn't want him to come back because of the baby. Please don't tell him, she begged, immersing into Ino's arms. Calm down, Sakura, it is okay. I won't tell him, Ino said, brushing gently Sakura's back to calm her down. She then pulled her out of her embrace and looked into her eyes. Sakura, why won't you tell him about the baby? I don't understand how that wonderful news is stopping you from telling him that you love him. Why is it too late? Ino asked, trying to figure out how Sakura was thinking. I just don't want him to forget it all and come back just for the baby. If I go to him and tell him that I love him and that I am pregnant, it will be like I am forcing him to be with me. It will be like I don't love him, Sakura answered with eyes ready to fall, the tears that she was holding back. Sakura, that's not true. Naruto knows that you love him and all he wants is to tell you. Naruto won't think that way. He is not that kind of guy, Ino said to her friend, trying to change her mind. Info please, don't tell him, she pleaded once again. Ino sighed in desperation at Sakura's stubbornness. Okay, I won't, but what will you do when your abdomen will grow? She asked, trying to bring her into her senses. I don't know, Ino. I will see what I will do when that time comes, Sakura answered. Sakura, you have to tell him as soon as possible. He will get mad at you if he finds out that you were hiding such a thing from him. You have to tell him. He has the right to know, Sakura, Ino said with a loud voice. I don't know. I will think about it, Sakura said, rubbing the back of her neck. Do you promise? Ino asked, forming a small smile. I promise, Sakura replied back with a weak smile. Mommy! Shouted out loud a blonde little girl who ran into Ino's arms. Ino held little Amy tight into her embrace since she hadn't seen her for 3 months now. Amy was everything to her. She was the reason for living. She was the reason not to give up when she was on the edge of death on missions. She was her princess. It was difficult for her to leave her when she had to leave for missions, but she knew that her little princess was in good hands. Hello, sweetie. How is my little princess? Ino asked and gave her a kiss on the cheek and put her into her arms again. Little Amy got out of Ino's embrace and said with enthusiasm, great. She then pointed to her head. Look, Mommy. Daddy bought me a new hat, she said, forming a big smile. Ino looked at the hat and formed a smile. She knew that Amy wanted that hat, and of course Sasuke couldn't let his little pumpkin disappointed. Sasuke was the best father in the whole world. Of course Sasuke had changed since he came back to the village, but when his little pumpkin was born the smile never left his face. Sakura was watching from her seat at the spectacle in front of her. It was so beautiful watching a happy mother smiling at her child with love and pride. She wanted to experience that moment too, but not alone. She wanted Naruto on her side, but that couldn't happen because it was too late. Too late, Sakura thought to herself as her eyes started to water again. What a beautiful hat, Ino said with a soft expression on her face. Amy giggled for a while but stopped when she saw Sakura staring at her with watered eyes. Mommy, why is Auntie so sad? Is she sick? The blonde-haired girl asked, pointing at Sakura with her finger. Sakura snapped out from her thoughts when she heard Amy's questions. She cleared her eyes and said with a smile, don't worry honey, I am just tired, that's all. Ino saw Sakura's tears. She couldn't stand watching her best friend being this way, so she thought that it would be a good idea to try and change her mind about the baby. Sweetie, why won't you go for sleep so we can go at the park in the morning? Ino said with a smile. Really? Little Amy asked with enthusiasm. Ino nodded and little Amy gave her mother a big hug and kissed her as a thank you for tomorrow's walk. When little Amy went to sleep, Ino tried to speak but stopped when she heard the door open. Ino and Sakura looked in the direction where the door opened to see Sasuke coming inside. When Sasuke came close to them, Sakura and Ino formed a confused look on their faces. What happened to your right cheek, Sasuke? It looks like someone slapped you, Ino asked, looking at her husband. Sasuke looked first at Ino and then at Sakura and then back at Ino. Your little princess slapped me, he said, looking away as he crossed his hands on his chest. They both got back from what they heard. After a few seconds they both looked at each other and started laughing. Hey! What's funny? He asked with a serious look. You were slapped by a little kid? Sakura asked while laughing. It was the first time after a while she had laughed with all her heart. Well, I don't know how it is possible, but she has as much power in her punch as yours and Ino's combined together, and besides, she got me unprepared. Sasuke tried to excuse himself. Nonsense, honey. I think you are oversaying things, Ino said, still laughing. When she calmed herself from the laughter she looked at him and asked with a serious tone, so why did my princess hit you? Sasuke looked away and crossed his arms on his chest. I would rather not talk about that, he said, and a light pink color appeared on his cheeks. Ino saw the pink color on his cheeks and got suspicious. Oh really? She asked with a look full of promises with pain. Sakura thought at that moment that she wasn't needed, and so she decided to leave. Guys, as much as I want to see Ino beating Sasuke, I have to go. Thanks for the tea, Ino, she said, and left the apartment, leaving both wondering what had happened. Few seconds after Sakura's departure, Ino looked at Sasuke and said, Are you going to tell me why Amy slapped you or not? Sasuke sighed and said, Amy thought that I was looking at a woman, and... He couldn't finish his phrase when Ino slapped him on his cheek and tried to say something. What the dash, but he was interrupted by Ino, who said with her hands crossed in her chest, You deserved it. Sasuke didn't say anything and continued, As I was saying, Amy thought that I was looking at a woman, but I wasn't. I was looking at Naruto. Naruto was at the festival? Ino asked with curiosity. No, I saw him here in the village, he replied back as he sat on the couch next to Ino. Ino got near her husband and hugged him, giving him a kiss on his cheek which she had slapped earlier. I am sorry, she said with repentance. Sasuke hugged her back and kissed her softly on her lips. Don't worry, I will live, he said, smiling, and kissed her again. After a few seconds of silence, Ino asked with curiosity, so what was Naruto doing and got your attention? Sasuke sighed and replied back to his lovely wife he was drunk. Ino got back from what her husband had just told her. What? Naruto? Naruto was drunk? Are you sure that it was him? Ino asked, trying to believe what she had just heard. Yes, Ino, it was him. I sent Amy here and took Naruto to his apartment. He was in a real mess, he said with seriousness. Ino knew what may have brought Naruto to get himself drunk. She looked down at the floor and said, did he talk to you? He said that he broke up with Sakura. He gripped Ino's hand and continued, and that he was going to propose the day they broke up. What? Ino asked with a loud voice and eyes open wide from Sasuke's last phrase. Calm down, Ino. What got into you? He asked with curiosity. He didn't expect that kind of reaction from her. Great. This is just great, Ino mumbled. Sasuke placed a hand on her shoulder and asked with curiosity, what is going on, Ino? Am I missing something? Did Naruto tell you why they broke up? Ino asked with seriousness. No, he didn't. He was so drunk that he passed out after he told me that he was going to propose to her, he replied. Ino rubbed her neck and started to mumble, this is a disaster. Naruto was going to propose and Sakura is pregnant. And before she could finish her thoughts, Sasuke interrupted her. Wait, Sakura is pregnant? He asked with a smile on his face. Ino only nodded without looking at her husband. If Sakura is pregnant, I can't see where the problem is. The birth of a child always brings the couple together, Sasuke said. Ino looked up at him and said, Sasuke, Naruto doesn't know about the baby and she couldn't tell him. She looked at the floor and said, Sakura won't tell him about her pregnancy. What? Sasuke asked out loud. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun was shining brightly in the sky and birds were singing a happy melody. For Naruto it was one more day in hell. Without his Sakura-chan everything was dark, bleak and meaningless. He sat up on his bed and looked around. He realized that his apartment was a mess, just like him. A smile formed on his face as he remembered that his apartment was always a mess, but he had his Sakura-chan scolding him. Naruto, if I ever see your apartment in that mess again, I will not cook ramen for you ever again. He loved Sakura's cooking, especially when it came to ramen. He went to the kitchen and sat on a chair next to the table. He remembered all the good times they spent together in that place. Memories he couldn't forget. Memories that were hurt, but he didn't want to forget. A weak smile formed on his face when a memory flashed in his mind. Flashback. Sakura, this is delicious, Naruto said while eating ramen which Sakura made for him. Baka, don't speak with your mouth full, Sakura scolded. After they finished with their meal, Sakura was washing the dishes while Naruto was watching her in silence. He then got near her and hugged her from behind. I love you, Sakura-chan, he said as he placed a soft kiss on her neck and tightened the hug. Sakura then turned around and looked into his eyes. Me too, Naruto, she said, and kissed him softly on his lips. End of flashback. That moment didn't matter to Naruto about the phrase. He knew that she loved him and anyone could see that. He got up and went to the bathroom. He saw his reflection in the mirror. His blonde hair was uncombed and his eyes swollen with bags around them. He hadn't shaved for a long time and you could see a beard forming on his face. He smiled again when he remembered the time that he left a beard and Sakura complimented to him. Have I told you how sexy you are looking with that beard? When he got out of the bathroom he went and sat on his couch. Again memories with his cherry blossom flashed through his mind. Flashback. It was the night before the new year would arrive. They both were sitting on the couch holding a glass of wine each of them. To us both said with eyes full of love. They took a sip and then Naruto said, I love you, Sakura-chan. Sakura smiled and got close to him. Always yours, she said, and kissed him passionately. End of flashback. His smile left his face and tears started to fall. Everything was reminding him of her, his cherry blossom. He ran a hand through his messy blonde hair and sighed. Have I done the right thing? He asked himself. All those memories were showing him that Sakura loved him. Of course she did. But if she did love him, then what was the problem saying I love you? Were these loving words she said back then hiding the phrase he so desperately wanted to hear? Was he paranoid? All those thoughts were causing him doubts. He was almost ready to go back and ask for forgiveness from his cherry blossom. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted when he heard a knock at his door. For a moment he thought it would be Sakura, but then he remembered that she hadn't shown up for 3 weeks. He opened the door and saw that it was Sasuke. "We need to talk," Sasuke said with a serious look. Naruto stepped aside and let Sasuke get inside. Sasuke was standing near the window watching Naruto, who was sitting on the couch. They stayed in silence for a while when Naruto talked first. "So what are we going to talk about? Why? Why are you doing that to yourself?" Sasuke asked, looking into his eyes. "Doing what?" Naruto asked with curiosity. "You know what I am talking about, Naruto. Yesterday I saw you in a bar drinking like a maniac, and then you told me that you broke up with Sakura," Sasuke said, trying not to lose his cool. Naruto looked down at the floor without saying anything, and Sasuke continued, "Why were you drinking last night? It's not like you drinking when you feel down." "I wasn't only feeling down, Sasuke. I was in pain, and I still am," Naruto said with depression in his eyes. "I thought drinking alcohol would make my pain go away and forget about her." Even for a while Naruto finished and cupped his head with his hands in desperation. "Why? If you love her that much, then why you broke up with her?" Sasuke asked, starting to lose his coolness. I just want her to tell me that she loves me," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "Are you nuts? Don't throw her out of your life, Naruto. Don't you see that you're hurting both of you?" Sasuke said with a loud voice. "What do you want me to do, Sasuke? I want to spend the rest of my life with her, but without saying that she loves me I can't go on. We have been together for 2 years, Sasuke. 2 years, and she never told me that she loves me. What would you have done if you were me?" Naruto said, looking straight into his eyes. "You are too selfish, Naruto. Have you ever wondered yourself why she hasn't told you that she loves you?" Sasuke asked and clenched his fists, anger taking the best of him. Naruto looked down at the floor and ran a hand through his blonde hair. "Yes, I have, and when I think of it, I feel a knife tearing apart my heart." He then stood up and went where Sasuke was standing and looked outside. "Sometimes I feel like she is with me because she feels sorry about me," Naruto finished with sorrow in his eyes. By hearing those last words, Sasuke punches Naruto in his guts and grabbed him by his collar. "Wake up, you idiot!" he shouted out loud with anger. "Sakura loves you more than anything else." He pushed him on the couch and continued, "Do you know how difficult it is for her to confess after all she have been through?" Naruto looked into his eyes, confused. "What do you mean? Rejection? She confessed to me, and what did I do? I rejected her in the worst way. Do you understand now how difficult is it for her?" Naruto's eyes winded from what Sasuke told him. It all makes sense now. Her confession towards Sasuke tore her apart. And then there is her confession towards me. Naruto ran a hand through his messy hair and said with terror in his eyes, "Oh dear Lord, what have I done?" Sasuke then placed a hand on his shoulder to calm him down. "It's not too late," he said with a soft voice. Sasuke then got confused when a smiling Naruto got up and started grabbing some clothes that were lying on the couch and moving them to his bedroom. "What are you doing?" Sasuke asked, confused. "If Sakura-chan sees that mess in my apartment, the punishment will be no ramen for the rest of my life," said a smiling and full of energy blonde boy. Sakura was in her apartment sitting on the couch and thinking about Ino's words. "Naruto is the father, and he has the right to know." She placed her hand on her belly and thought again about Ino's words. "You have to tell him as soon as possible. He will get mad if he finds out that you are hiding such a thing from him." "She is right," Sakura thought with a sigh. "Naruto is the father of my child, and he has the right to know," she concluded, and stood up, hesitated. She reached the door and placed her hand on the door handle with hesitation still in her face. She was ready to give up when a smiling face of a blond man holding a baby in his arms flashed into her mind. How could she deprive his only child? How could she be so cruel and hide such a happy fact from him? How could she deprive so much happiness from him? These questions made her disgust herself. "How could I be so selfish?" she asked herself, and opened the door determined. She took the way to Naruto's home, but when she got there, she realized that he wasn't home and left for her apartment disappointed. She was walking through the streets of Konoha looking at the ground, thinking of a way to announce her pregnancy to Naruto when she hit her head with someone. "Ouch! Hey, look where you are going!" Sakura finished her phrase with a surprised voice. "Naruto?" Sakura asked, still surprised, not believing that she was standing in front of him. "I am sorry, Sakura-chan. I wasn't looking where I was going, he said with his famous grin. Did he just call me Sakura-chan and with a smile? Did I miss something? Does he know? Did Ino tell him? Sakura asked herself, trying to figure out why Naruto was acting like that. I was looking for you, Naruto said. Bringing Sakura back to reality, I stopped by your house but you were not there. There is something I want to talk to you about. It's important, Naruto finished with a smile on his face. Sakura went agape by Naruto's words. He is smiling again. He definitely knows something, Sakura thought nervously. Sakura tried to keep her cool and said, I was looking for you too. What a coincidence. Naruto shouted out loud, well, let's go at my place and talk then, he said while smiling. And oh, came a quick answer from Sakura. Knowing Naruto, if what he wanted to talk about was her being pregnant, then he would forget all about their fights and start kissing and eventually end up in bed. When it came to Naruto's kisses, she just couldn't resist, and that is what she didn't want at that moment. She didn't want to get back together just because of their child. She wanted to prove to him that she loved him more than anything in this world. She just needed to find a way to prove it. Sakura looked up at the night sky and said, the night is so beautiful tonight. Let's just go for a walk. We can talk while walking. Oh. Okay. Let's walk, Naruto said with a confused look. They were walking for hours through the streets of Konoha, but neither of them spoke. They were supposed to talk, and yet not a single word came out of each other's mouths. Naruto was thinking about Sakura's denial when he suggested going to his house. Why did she refuse? I don't get it. If she was looking for me at my house, then why did she refuse to go to my place? Naruto sighed in desperation without Sakura noticing him. Meantime, Sakura was trying to find a way of telling him about her pregnancy. Okay, let's see. Naruto, you know when two people are in love and make out together and after a few months they become a family? Well, guess what? We are going to be a family. No, this way is like I am telling him to marry me. Let's try again. Naruto, do you know about storks which they brought as babies? No way, this is a story for children. Sakura sighed and said to herself, maybe I should just spill it out. I hope he will not have a heart attack. Sakura's thoughts were interrupted by Naruto's sudden question. Are you okay, Sakura-chan? What? Oh yes, I am fine, she answered, avoiding his gaze once again. They both stopped and looked around with amazement. They were in a place where the heads of the most respectful and stronger shinobis were engraved. The full moon was shining brightly in the night sky while the stars were dancing around it, and Konoha was lighting in all its glory. Beautiful, isn't it? Naruto asked, not letting his gaze from the view. Yes, the view is amazing, she answered back. She turned at him and tried to say something, but out of the blue she felt dizzy, and she was ready to fall when she felt two strong arms catching her from her waist. Are you feeling okay, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked, worried. Yes, Naruto, I am fine. I am just tired. That's all, she answered with a weak smile. Are you sure? Do you want me to take you home? We can talk tomorrow. I can't stand watching you like this, he said in a serious tone, still with worry on his face. Sakura then grabbed Naruto's hands while they were holding her waist and said while caressing them, Naruto, I am fine, really. Let's just sit down, and I will be better in no time. Naruto was in a shock by Sakura's actions, but at the same time he was feeling happiness knowing that his Sakura-chan was still in love with him, and that this time he would do the right thing to be together again. They were sitting on the ground looking at the view in front of them when Naruto made the first move. Are you feeling better now? Yes, I am feeling much better now. I was just tired by the work at the hospital, she answered convincingly. Naruto then looked into her eyes and asked, so, what were you going to tell me about? Sakura looked away from his gaze and tried to speak. I was going to tell you about something. She hesitated. She thought that she was ready to tell him about her pregnancy, but she didn't. She needed to buy some time. What did you want to talk about? She asked with her gaze still avoiding him. Naruto was taken aback by Sakura's sudden question. He waited for an answer from her, and yet he got a question. He took a big breath and said, well, I have been thinking about our fights and my stubbornness of forcing you to say something that you didn't feel ready of saying it. He grabbed her hand softly and continued looking at her. Sakura was still avoiding his gaze. I pushed you away because of my selfishness, and I realized that I can't live without you. I don't care if you say it or not. His hand left from hers and grabbed her face so he could see into her green eyes. All I want is to be with you. Sakura's eyes widened and tears started to form. Naruto got confused, and when he tried to say something, Sakura interrupted him and said with a loud voice, "Why are you telling me this now after all you have put me through?" Naruto got abacked by Sakura's reaction. "Sakura-chan, what are dash? From the day you left me, I have been fighting with myself trying to find the reasons for my denial. I came so many times at your door trying to say it, but when I couldn't, all I got was a closed door. I even begged you, but you just threw me out. And now you are saying that you don't care if I tell it or not?" Sakura asked, looking into his eyes trying to find answers to his sudden change of mind. "Sakura, I know I made a lot of mistakes, but it's over now. Why are you so negative all of a sudden? Don't you want to be together again?" he asked, trying to understand what Sakura was thinking. "No, Naruto, you didn't make mistakes. I was the one who made the mistake, and you were the one who opened my eyes and made me see the truth behind it. Then why are you complaining and dash? But it is you now that you have your eyes closed," she said with her eyes not letting his gaze. "What do you mean?" he asked, confused. "All this fuss was just the motive for your outburst. You don't trust my feelings, Naruto." Naruto's eyes were winded by Sakura's statement. He stayed silent for a while and then he spoke with a serious look. "What do you mean I don't trust you?" "I do trust you. I just wanted to hear it from you." "Is that dash?" She was cut off by the pink-haired woman again, not letting him finish. "What about the future, Naruto? If I continue denying or saying what you want to hear, what will happen then?" "What will happen if you come again and ask me the same thing?" she said, trying to force the hot tears back which they were welling up behind her eyes. "What do you mean?" "You don't mean that, I dash. Will you leave me again?" Sakura cut him off again, her eyes still trying to let the hot tears fall down. I don't know," he answered waveringly and looked away. Sakura lost her willpower, and tears started to fall freely down her cheeks. It was obvious to her that Naruto didn't trust her feelings, that all this time they were together, Naruto was feeling insecure about her feelings. He was afraid of losing her. Why don't you trust me?" she asked anxiously, fearing the worst of what was coming next. "I don't know what are you talking about. I trust you and dash. If you trust me, then why aren't you looking at me?" she interrupted him, letting him know that he couldn't escape. "I don't want to talk about it," he said, still looking away from her. Sakura got abacked by Naruto's statement. Now, she was certain that something happened while they were together, and that scared her. "You don't want to talk about it. I am trying to find a solution to our problem here, and you are not helping, Naruto," she said, incensed. "Sakura, let's stop our conversation here. I just don't want to talk about it," he pleaded. "No, I don't want to end this conversation. I want to know the truth," she said determinedly. Naruto didn't say anything. All he was doing was looking down the village, avoiding her gaze. Sakura sighed in frustration. She didn't know what to do anymore. She approached him and forced him to look onto her eyes. "Don't you want to be together?" she asked ardently. "Yes, I do want to be together," he answered. "Then tell me why you don't trust me." "Sakura-chan, please don't dash. Why don't you trust me?" "Sakura, if you don't stop this I will dash." "Tell me, Naruto," she said, getting more incensed. "I saw you kissing Sasuke," he said with a loud voice. Sakura was taken aback by what Naruto said. She was looking into his eyes trying to find if she heard right. "What are you talking about?" "I have never kissed Sasuke or any other man while we were together," she said, offended. Naruto stood up and put his hands into his pockets, and said with his back facing Sakura, "It didn't happen while we were together. It was the day before Sasuke's and Ino's marriage. Ever since we got together, that image keeps coming into my mind, and it hurts so much when I ask you to say that little phrase so I can feel better, and in the end you just refuse." He turned around so he could see into her green emerald eyes and continued, "I love you. I really do, and I know that you love me too, but I don't know what kind of love you are feeling towards me, and the thought of you still having feelings for Sasuke drives me crazy." Sakura didn't know how to react. She was feeling anger and guilt at the same time. Guilt, because she never told him about that day, and anger, because he doubted her feelings. "If I still had feelings for Sasuke, I wouldn't be with you in the first place. Yes, I did kiss him that day, but you don't know the whole story," she said, looking into his eyes. "You kissed him and that won't change anything. A kiss always shows the truth." "Feelings," he said. Sakura smiled a bit and said, "Listen to yourself. You just said that actions are more important than words to describe your feelings. So how do you want me to express my feelings after all? Do you want me to express my feelings by words or actions?" Naruto got mad by Sakura's sarcastic tone. You just don't kiss someone for no reason, Sakura, he yelled. If you let me explain myself, you will understand, she said, looking at him. Naruto looked away and remained silent, letting her explain. Sakura looked up at the sky and started talking back then. I wasn't sure about my feelings. I mean, when Ino told me she was dating Sasuke, I didn't feel anger or hurt, and it got me confused. I asked myself how was that possible after all I have been through for Sasuke, but I couldn't find any answers. Her gaze drooped down at the town and continued. When I was told that they were getting married, I had never felt so relaxed in my life before. I mean, I should have felt something, like pain in my heart, but nothing. The day before Sasuke's wedding, I went and talked to him, and when I told him all those thoughts were spinning into my mind, he smiled at me. He said that I didn't love him like a man but like a brother, and that I was in love with someone else. Naruto's gasp made Sakura stop her story. Is that possible? Could that story be true? And what about that kiss she gave him? Naruto thought. When Sakura didn't hear a comment by Naruto, she took it as a sign to continue. At first I laughed, and said that if I was in love with someone else I would have known it. To prove me wrong, he asked me to kiss him. At first I hesitated, but I wanted to know if what Sasuke told me was true. The kiss didn't last for long, but it made me understand that he was right. When I kissed him I felt nothing, not even a gripe in my stomach, or a blush, nothing. He asked how I felt, and when I did, he told me that I wasn't in love with him, that I never was in love with him. I asked him to tell me to whom I was in love, and he said that it was so obvious that even a child could see how much I love him. He didn't tell me the name, he said that I should find it by myself. The answer came to me at their wedding when I saw you in that orange kimono, but it took me 2 years to admit and let out my feelings. She looked into his eyes and said, I might haven't told you what you needed to hear all these years, but now I can tell you that. She was cut off by Naruto, who said, how can I trust you? What? What do you mean? She asked, confused. How can I be sure that you are telling me the truth? He asked, looking into her eyes. Sakura was surprised by Naruto's unexpected question. Naruto, are you listening to yourself? Why would I lie to you? Naruto turned his gaze away from Sakura's and said sarcastically, oh please Sakura, your actions back then in Iron Country aren't enough to prove you are wrong? Sakura got aback by Naruto's question. She couldn't believe how much Naruto was questioning her honesty. She was going to explain to him about that day but stopped when she remembered how many times Naruto brought up that event when they quarreled at each other. She was tired playing this little game of his. She got up from the ground and said indignantly, looking into his eyes, you know what? I don't care if you believe me or not anymore, this ends here. Fine, it's over. Naruto said acrimoniously. Sakura then turned around with her back facing Naruto. She was hoping that in the end, he would apologize and ask her for forgiveness, but she was wrong. Being together was wrong from the beginning, she said in despair, with her eyes letting the tears fall freely down her cheeks, and started running away from her love, running away from her Naruto. Naruto was sitting down at the ground looking at the night sky and thinking all about his conversation he had with Sakura. He couldn't believe that he and his cherry blossom broke up. He couldn't believe that she was the one who said it, but what hurt him the most was the statement she made that being together was wrong from the beginning. Was it wrong? Why? Was our relationship a risk for her? Naruto asked himself, trying to understand why Sakura made that statement. Those thoughts made him remember that day. The day when their relationship started. The day when he gathered all his courage and confessed to her. The day when she accepted her own feelings and together made the first step. Flashback. He gently grabbed her soft hands and formed a small smile on his face. I love you, the blonde-haired man said, looking straight into Sakura's green emerald eyes. Sakura formed a smile and looked at their locked hands and said, I know, and the funny part is that I am feeling the same way, but she paused and looked away. She couldn't say what was holding her back. Naruto then touched her left cheek softly, and said, his smile never leaving his face, I knew I was right. All those nights we spent, talking to each other about everything, watching movies together, the kisses on my cheeks and hugs you were giving me as a friendly gesture, I just felt it. I was afraid to express my feelings. I was afraid of your reaction. I was afraid of your rejection. But now, here I am, standing right in front of you and expressing my strong feelings towards you. I love you. I always have. He then capped her face and made her look at him straight in the eyes. I want us to be together. Like a couple, he leaned forward to kiss her, but Sakura stopped him by placing her hands above his and forcing him gently to let her go. What is wrong? He asked, confused. I am afraid that if I let you in, you will break my heart and leave me. I just don't want to see myself heartbroken again, she said in a low tone. Naruto put his arms on Sakura's shoulders and looked her straight in the eyes. Sakura, I love you more than anything in this world. I will never ever do that to you. I will never hurt your feelings. I will never leave you. I promise. Please give us a chance, he pleaded. Sakura was touched by what he said and tears started to fall from happiness. And just like that she immersed into his embrace, leaving behind all the issues she had for so long. End of flashback. Naruto's tears were falling freely down his cheeks. He couldn't believe that he broke his promise he made to her. He couldn't believe that Sakura's issues became reality. All this time I was causing her pain. I broke her heart because of my ridiculous insecurities. I am not good enough after all, he thought, and looked up at the bright full moon. Sakura-chan, I am sorry. The next morning found Sakura sleeping on a couch. She was crying all night long and asking herself one simple question: why? Why is it that she always has to be the victim when it comes to love? The pink-haired woman opened her eyes when she felt a small light on her face. She sat up and looked around when her gaze stopped at the window. She formed a curious look when she saw a note on it. She stood up and went by the window. She took the note and started reading it. Once again I broke your heart, and that hurts me. I promised that I would never hurt you, and yet I did. I don't want to make you suffer anymore. I am leaving for a long-time mission. It will be enough time for you to move on with your life. You deserve someone better than me. I want you to know that I love you and I will never stop loving you. Below there is the proof of my love towards you. It was my present for you on our anniversary, but things got complicated. I love you, Naruto. Sakura looked down at the little box with tears and opened it. Inside the box there was a ring with a diamond shining in the middle. He was going to propose, she asked herself. Was that the reason he was so anxious of telling him that I love him? She asked herself once again, and more tears started to fall freely down her cheeks. She then fell to her knees holding the note in her left hand. It's my fault that he left, she said, clenching her right hand. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault, she kept repeating herself while punching the floor with madness. It had been a month since Naruto left Konoha and many sad things had happened. From the day Naruto left, Sakura was locked in her apartment. All she was doing was sitting on her bed thinking all about Naruto, and crying because she thought that she was the one who made him leave. Inside her apartment there was only dark. The curtains were covering the windows, forbidding beams of the sun to light up the apartment. Sakura was not eating much, and she did not want to speak to anyone but only to her best friend, Ino. The blonde-haired woman was visiting her every day, trying to persuade her to eat and go out to get some fresh air. Of course Sakura would refuse to eat something, but Ino would say that she needed strength for her baby, and that made her eat even a little. Sasuke, who was watching Sakura crumble, was getting more and more disappointed with Naruto. How could he leave her and make her suffer if he loved her so much? He just couldn't understand. Ino learned everything about what happened, but she didn't tell Sasuke about it, because if he knew that he was somehow the reason for this, he would have never forgiven himself. 2 months after Naruto's escape, things got tragic. One day, Ino was ready to leave her apartment and visit Sakura, but Sasuke offered himself to do it because he wanted to speak with her. He wanted to know if there was something he could do. He wanted to know if he could erase her pain. He reached her apartment and knocked on the door. After 2 minutes of waiting, he knocked on the door again, but the door never opened. It was then when he got worried and opened the door by himself. He got inside the house, but he couldn't see anything due to the darkness inside the room. His eyes opened wide when he smelled something familiar: blood. He anxiously switched on the light and looked around the room. It was then when he looked down the floor and saw an unconscious Sakura with blood down her legs. Sasuke got near her and kneeled down beside her. Sakura, wake up. Sakura, he said, terrified while touching her face fidgety. Sasuke got scared when she didn't wake up, and so he got her into his arms bridal style and took off at the hospital. Sasuke got into the hospital like maniac. I need help right away, he shouted. Shizen heard his voice and her eyes winded in terror when she turned around and saw him holding a bleeding Sakura. What happened? She asked, terrified. I don't know, I just walked into her house and saw her bleeding, he answered. Okay, lay her down on that bed and bring Tsunade here, she said, and started to perform an examination on Sakura when her eyes winded when she found out what was happening. This is bad. Sasuke was in the waiting room walking back and forth like crazy. I hope she is okay. She lost a lot of blood. What happened anyway? He asked himself out loud. Would you calm down, honey? I can't stand watching you like this, Ino said with a soft voice. How am I supposed to calm down when I don't know what's wrong with Sakura? He said with a loud voice. I know. I am worried too, she said, looking down at the floor with a sad expression on her face. They are late. They have been in there for an hour now, and... He couldn't finish his phrase when the surgery's doors opened to reveal Tsunade. Well? Sasuke asked with worry clear on his face. Tsunade didn't answer, and that terrified Ino. Is she okay? Did she d-dash? She is fine, Tsunade said, trying to calm down the young blonde woman, and continued, but she couldn't finish her phrase when Sasuke asked waveringly, Is the baby alright? Tsunade sighed and said the baby is fine, but both of them are in danger. We might lose them both if Sakura won't take care of herself. We will take her to our place and take care of her, Sasuke said with seriousness, trying for the first time to keep his calm. Both Ino and Tsunade went against Sasuke's phrase. Tsunade formed a serious expression and said, You don't understand, Sasuke. Their lives depend only on Sakura's actions. If she doesn't have the will to fight for her life and just give up, she will die. Sasuke and Ino were shocked by her statement. What are we going to do now? I don't want to lose her. How are we going to make her fight for her life? Ino asked with terror. Tsunade then grabbed her from her shoulders and said, trying to calm her down, Calm down, Ino. First we are going to talk with her and tell her about her situation she is in, and see how she will react. And what if after we talk to her continues falling apart? Ino asked with more terror in her eyes. Honey, don't be negative. She will be fine, just fine. She will see her mistake and fight for her, and her baby's life, Sasuke said with a soft voice. Ino nodded and wiped her tears away. I will go and see how she is doing, she said with a weak smile. I will come too in a while, Sasuke said with a soft voice and kissed her softly on her lips. When Ino left, Sasuke turned to Tsunade and asked with a serious look, How did this happen? I mean, how is that possible? Isn't it obvious? Sasuke's eyes blinked for a moment, and Tsunade continued, You know how Sakura has been acting for 2 months now. She wasn't eating or getting any sleep. She fell in depression when Naruto left. All these are the reasons to Sakura's breakdown. Sasuke looked down at the floor and said with a sad voice, It's all my fault. Tsunade was taken aback by his words. Why is he at fault? She asked herself. She placed a hand on his shoulder and said, It's not your fault, Sasuke. Sasuke then looked at her surprised. We did everything we could. We tried many times to change the way she was acting these past 2 months. It's not your fault, okay? Tsunade said softly. Sasuke looked away and said okay. He turned around and said, Tell Ino I am going for a walk. I will come and see Sakura later. Sakura, why? Why so much pain? Sasuke asked while walking through the streets of Konoha, not knowing where they would lead him to. I know you love him, but doesn't your baby mean something to you? He stopped walking when he realized he was standing in front of Sakura's apartment. He got inside and started looking around. His gaze stopped at a picture showing a smiling Naruto hugging the pink-haired woman. She was looking so happy back then. He then went to her bedroom. He didn't know why he was doing it. Maybe he was looking for something that could give him strength to help her. His gaze stopped at the bed. On the bed there was a small box and a rumble note. He took the note and started reading it. Anger welled up inside him. His hands started shaking and his eyes became red. Naruto, you are going to regret this. Tsunade was at her office watching outside the window and thinking about a certain blonde-haired man. Naruto, she whispered, if only I knew what happened the day before I gave you the mission. She was brought back to reality when she heard a knock on the door. Enter, she said. The door opened to reveal 2 worried faces. Ino and Sasuke sat across Tsunade's desk. Tsunade-sama, we must do something about Sakura. It's the 2nd time that she collapses, Ino pleaded. There is nothing we can do, Ino. It's up to Sakura and only. What if we call Naruto back? She asked. That won't happen. I won't allow it. Sasuke shouted with anger clear in his face. Tsunade and Ino went agape by Sasuke's reaction. Honey, what got into you? Naruto is the only one who can make things better, Ino said softly, trying to calm him down. How can you say he can help her when it's his fault that Sakura is in the hospital right now? He asked, furious. They love each other, Sasuke. Sakura is in that state because he left, and she wants him back. Ino said in a loud voice. That's it. I am going to put an end in this. Sasuke said, incensed, and left the office. Ino tried to follow him, but Tsunade stopped her. Let him be, Ino. He is the only one who can help Sakura right now. What do you mean, Tsunade-sama? What if he says something to her and get worse? Ino asked, worried. He won't, she said with a smile on her face. Tsunade-sama, shouldn't we call Naruto to come back? Ino asked. We can't call him back. He is working on the spy network, and we don't know where his location is. Only Naruto can communicate with us. So let Sasuke handle this, she answered. Ino thought for a second and asked when Naruto is coming back. He will be back in 3 years, she said with a sad expression on her face. Sakura was sitting on the hospital bed looking outside the window without looking at anything specific. She was only thinking of him. The words that were written on the note when she left flashed in her mind. Move on with your life. You deserve someone better than I. She grabbed the sheets tightly and said with tears welling up in her eyes, Baka, I can't live a life without you. I don't want anyone else to be with. I only want you. She brushed her tears away when she heard a knock on the door. Come in, she said. The door opened to reveal a furious Sasuke getting closer to her and sitting at a chair near the bed. Sakura tried to speak, but she was cut off by Sasuke, who said in a loud voice, That's enough. Sasuke, please, I don't want to talk about it again, she said, looking away. No, you are going to hear me out, Sasuke. He isn't here, Sakura. Deal with it. You are with a child. His child, and instead of taking care of yourself, you are here in this hospital with a high possibility of dying. Is that what you want? You want to die? And if you want to die, don't you care that your child is doomed to die too? I do care about my child, but No, but Sakura, he stood up and walked to the door, don't you get it? He left you. He ran away, he said, and closed the door. Sakura's eyes winded at Sasuke's last words, he left me? She asked herself, and just like a flash Naruto's promise came into her mind, I will never leave you. I promise. 5 months later, Sakura brought to life a beautiful pink-haired girl. During the childbirth there were some complications. As a result, Sakura was in a coma for a week. Ino couldn't watch her best friend in that state, so she named the baby Saki. That name means blossom of hope. She hoped that this child would make Sakura wake up, but what she hoped the most was that one day Saki will bring Sakura and Naruto back together. It had been 2 years since little Saki came into this world, and things got a little bit better for Sakura. Little Saki's birth had eased the pain in her heart, and became strong so she could stand up for her daughter. Of course, Sakura was never left alone. Her friends helped her raise her child in every possible way. Everyone loved little Saki, and it wasn't because they felt pity for not having her daddy around her. Little Saki loved them all so much that she considered them as her family, and that bond was becoming stronger each time they visited her. There was only one man that she loved Saki more than the others, and that was Sasuke. He always felt a strange feeling when he was around Saki that he considered her as his own daughter, and he couldn't explain the reason for that. One day Ino said to him that the reason of that feeling, it might be because he had been there when Sakura gave birth to little Saki, and seeing her after she had born without her father been around. He felt the urge to give her a father, and that was when that feeling was born inside his heart. It was a beautiful afternoon when Ino and Sakura stepped inside Ino's house after a lot of work at the hospital. We are here, Ino shouted so Sasuke could hear her. I am in the kitchen, Sasuke replied. The scene in front of them after they entered the kitchen left them speechless. Sasuke was wearing an apron cooking something with Amy as his assistant, giving him some ingredients, and little Saki sitting on the counter playing with a spoon. What are you doing there, and why are you wearing an apron? Ino asked, curious, as she went next to Amy and placed a soft kiss on her left cheek. We are cooking some food for our mothers, aren't we, girls? Sasuke said with a smile on his face. Yeah, the girls shouted happily. You are so crazy sometimes, you know that? Ino said as she placed a soft kiss on his cheek. Sakura went near the counter and took little Saki in her arms. Hey sweetie, how are you? Did you have fun with Amy and Mamoru? She asked, smiling. It was great, mommy, but Mamoru got tired and now he is sleeping, little Saki said in a sad tone. Mamoru was Sasuke's and Ino's second child. He was born 4 months after little Saki's birth. The boy looked just like his father. He had black dark hair and eyes. Saki loved to play with him as he was the same age as her. But that day Mamoru was sleeping almost all the time and Saki got disappointed by him. "Thank you for watching over her," Sasuke Sakura said, smiling at him. "No problem. And now ladies, please have a seat because dinner is about to be served. Amy, please help daddy here." "So, what do we have for dinner?" Ino asked as the two women sat next to the table waiting for their meal to be served. "Well, after a lot of pressure from Amy, we made ramen," he answered without looking at the women. He didn't want to make ramen because he knew that it would remind Sakura of him. It would remind her of the one that left her all alone, the one that had caused her so much pain in her heart. But he had already talked about that, and Sakura told him that she didn't want them to stay back for her sake. Life goes on and we have to accept the bad facts as it is and continue with our lives. That is what she said back then, but only she knew that she didn't believe these words. "Thank you for the dinner, Sasuke, but you already know that I want Saki eat healthy food, so I think it is best to take little Amy and go home so I can cook something healthy food for her to eat," she said, smiling at him. "You don't have to leave, Sakura. I boiled some vegetables for Saki," he said, smiling back at her. "Sakura, Amy won't get food poisoning if she eats something other than healthy food once in a while," Ino said as Sasuke and little Amy placed their plates on the table and started eating. "Mind your own business, Ino pig," she said as she took with her chopsticks some vegetables and leaned closer to feed Saki. Before little Saki could open her mouth, Ino grabbed the chopsticks from Sakura and said to Saki, "Now sweetie, do you want to try something awesome?" "Yeah," little Saki shouted with excitement. Sakura sighed in frustration as she watched Ino feeding little Saki ramen from her own plate. They stayed in silence watching little Saki chewing her food, waiting for her response. "It's awesome," the young pink-haired girl shouted in a cheerful voice. "So which one do you like more?" Ino asked, smiling at the little girl. "Ramen," she shouted once again with joy. She then turned to face her mother. "Can we have everyday ramen, mommy?" she pleaded. Sakura was taken aback by what she heard. The more Saki grew up, the merrier she took her father's habits. She gave a dead glare at Ino, promising her that she was going to regret it one day, and then looked at little Saki smiling. "Not every day, honey, but let's make a deal. If you are a good girl and behave yourself, then we will have ramen every Sunday. Is that okay with you?" she said as little Saki grinned like her father. It was a beautiful day in Konoha. The sky was cloudless and the sun was shining brightly above the village hidden in the leaves. Tsunade was at her office with Sakura giving her reports about medical supplies for the hospital. "Is that all we have?" Tsunade asked. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. We need to order herbs so we can make antidotes," Sakura answered. "Okay, I will assign a team for that. You can't dash." She was cut off when a knock came at the door. "Enter," she said in a strict tone. The door opened and closed. "I came to report," said a blonde-haired man. Sakura gasped by hearing that voice. She recognized that voice. It belonged to him. The one that she loved, the one she had a child with, the one who promised so much, and yet he left her all alone. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to slap him on his face and yell at him, and at the same time she wanted to run into arms and forget everything. She just ran away. "Hokage-sama, if you excuse me, I have to leave," she said and left the office. Naruto, on the other hand, was happy to see that his cherry blossom was fine. He formed a weak smile and said in a whisper tone, "I am glad she is fine." "She is not fine, you idiot." Tsunade spoke for the first time. Naruto looked up at her and formed a confused look. Tsunade sighed and said, "Never mind, it's not my business." Sakura was at the hospital doing some paperwork at her office. She was trying to get him out of her mind, but she couldn't. She thought that if she threw herself into the mountain of papers in front of her, she would forget him, but she was wrong. Every time his face flashed in her mind, a pain deep in her heart reminded her what he did and what he put her through. In these 3 years she never managed to forget him. Maybe it was because of her daughter, their daughter, or maybe she didn't want to forget him. She sighed and looked at the photo in front of her. In that photo there was a pink-haired girl. She was Saki, hers and Naruto's child. Although Saki had her mother's hair and eyes, she looked just like her father. Her attitude, her smile, everything. Saki knew about her father. It was one day when they were leaving Ino's house and little Saki asked, "Mommy, don't I have daddy like Amy has Uncle Sasuke?" Sakura was taken aback back then, but she told her that she had a father, and that one day he will come back. She told her that his father was the hero of the village, and that one day he would be the Hokage. Even after all that talk, the little girl still wanted to meet her father. That's when Sakura gave her a charm. Inside that charm there were 2 pictures. It was hers and Naruto's pictures. She told her that if she would wear it and think of him, her father would come back soon, because wherever someone is thinking about you, that's where you go home. Sakura was brought back to reality when she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Will you please stop doing that, Ino pig?" she chided her. "It's not my fault you are daydreaming, forehead," she answered back. "One of these days you are going to give me a heart attack." Okay, I am sorry. Anyway, what's the deal? Why were you daydreaming?" Sakura sighed and said, "Naruto is back." There was a silence for 5 minutes when Ino asked waveringly, What are you going to do now?" "I will do what I must. I will introduce Saki to her father," she answered back. Ino's eyes winded for a moment, but then softened, and a smile formed on her face. She thought that this was the first step for them to get back together. "What's the big smile about?" Sakura asked in curiosity. "Nothing really. How about you go and get Saki from your mother? I will finish the paperwork," she volunteered. "I thought Sasuke was going to get her after he would get Amy from the academy, and then treat them at Ichiraku," she said, confused. "Yes, he was. But after hearing about Naruto's comeback, I thought you might need time to prepare something," she said, and winked her right eye playfully. "Ino, all I am going to do is to tell him about our child. I am not going back to him." She stood up and continued, "But I guess I have to talk to him before I introduce him to Saki." She finished and left her office. Ino at first was speechless, but then her eyes softened and said with a smile, "This is only the beginning, Sakura." Somewhere in Konoha, at a place where the hero of the village lived, a blonde-haired man was lying on his bed looking at the ceiling. "Sakura," he whispered. He was thinking about her since that morning when he saw her for the first time in 3 years. God, she was so beautiful. Her hair had grown longer and her face was looking mature. Her eyes, those beautiful green emerald eyes, were the reason to get lost in them. He wished he could be with her once again, to kiss her soft lips, to embrace her into his strong arms and never let her go again, never. But that couldn't happen because he saw it in her face when she left the office. Sakura didn't look at him, but he saw in her eyes the closed doors which were hiding her feelings, her soul, her heart. His thoughts were cut off when a knock came at his door. He sighed and got up from his bed. "Can't anyone have a little privacy in this village anymore?" he said while opening the door. His eyes winded when he saw a pink-haired woman standing in front of him. "I am sorry for disturbing you. I will come again tomorrow," she said, and turned around to leave when Naruto grabbed her from her grip and said, "No, you are not bothering me. Please come inside." Sakura got inside and sat on a chair next to a table and waited for Naruto. "Do you want something to drink?" he kindly asked. "No, thank you. I have to talk to you about something," she said, getting right into the chase. "I am listening." "I have a daughter and she was cut off by him, who said in a sad voice, "I understand. You have moved on as I asked you. I won't get in your way, Sakura." "You understand wrong," she said in a strict tone. Naruto looked at her with a confused look and waited for her to explain. "As I was saying, I have a daughter. Her name is Saki and she is your daughter. Our daughter," she said in a serious tone, looking into his eyes. Naruto stayed there with his eyes wide open, trying to believe what Sakura had told him. "I have a daughter?" he asked with the shock still clear in his voice. "Yes, you have," she answered back. "Why didn't you tell me that before?" He was cut off by Sakura, who stood up and said while walking towards the door, "I was going to tell you that night, but things got complicated. It's not my fault you ran away." She opened the door and said before leaving his place, "Come tomorrow in the afternoon at my place to meet your daughter." Naruto was still sitting on the chair looking at the closed door. He had a daughter, and he didn't know it. If he only knew at that time that his cherry blossom was pregnant, he wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have caused her pain. It was 8 o'clock at night. Sasuke was sitting outside the porch talking with his pumpkin about her progress in the academy. "It's so difficult to make the clone jutsu, Daddy. Will you help me with my training tomorrow, please?" the young blonde-haired girl pleaded, looking straight into his eyes. Those eyes, why was it so difficult to deny her requests when she made those eyes? "Okay, tomorrow I will help you with your training," he said with a smile, and his pumpkin ran up to him and hugged him. "Thank you, Daddy, you are the best," she shouted with happiness. "Be careful, honey, you are spoiling her," Ino said, who was lining the wall. "You are the one to talk," Sasuke answered back. Mom, you are back! Ami shouted happily and ran into Ino's arms. Ino then kneeled down and kissed the blonde-haired girl. Did you miss me, little princess? She asked softly. Yes, Mom, I missed you, she answered and immersed into her mother's embrace. Ino then stood up and said to her daughter, okay, now, it's time for the princess to sleep. Say goodnight to your dad and go straight to sleep. Little Amy hugged Sasuke and said before leaving his embrace, good night, Daddy. I love you. Good night, Pumpkin. I love you too. Amy then kissed Ino and said good night, Mom. I love you. I love you more, Ino answered back. They both were sitting outside the porch watching in silence the beautiful night sky with its full moon. Sasuke was the first who broke the silence. You were late today. Too much work at the hospital, I suppose? He asked, still looking at the night sky. Well, actually I finished earlier, but I stayed and filled some medical reports, Ino answered back. I thought paperwork was Sakura's job, he asked, curious. Well, after hearing that Naruto was back, she was cut off by Sasuke, who stood up furious. What? Naruto is back? Why didn't you tell me this earlier? He asked her, looking into her eyes. Calm down, will you? I am telling it now. What got into you? She asked and stood up and got closer to him to take his hands into hers. Are you listening to yourself? Naruto is back and you are sending Sakura to find him? Haven't she suffered enough? He asked, irritated. You are forgetting they have a child together, and she was cut off when Sasuke released his hands and turned around. Do you know how much pain he will cause her when she will see him? He said with clenched fists. She has already saw him. Sasuke then turned around and said in frustration, great. Now she is vulnerable, and this will make her take wrong choices. What are you talking about? What wrong choices? Ino asked, curious. She will forget everything and run to him like a teenager. He answered with a loud voice. Ino sighed, trying to keep her cool, and said, you underestimated her, Sasuke. Sakura is not vulnerable. She looked up to meet his eyes and continued. In fact, she told me she won't go back to him. That's good to hear, he said with a relief. I don't get it. They have a child together. She already told him about Saki. Don't you want them together again? Ino asked in despair. No, I don't. Naruto caused her pain. She almost lost her life because of him. I don't want to watch her suffer again. And who are you to decide whenever they get back together or not? It's their life, not yours, she said, furious. Don't you get it? He hurt her, he said in a loud voice. You did the same to her, Sasuke, she said with an even louder voice. Sasuke's eyes winded from what Ino told him. She was right. He did hurt her feelings a long time ago. He broke her heart. The day he read Naruto's letter was the day when he realized the pain he had caused to her. Since that day, the night when he left Konoha to seek power became his nightmare. Sasuke's eyes softened. He sat on the chair and started looking into nothingness. Ino then sat on Sasuke's knees and hugged him. I know how you feel, honey. Believe me, you want to protect her. You don't want to see her suffer again, but don't you see how much she suffers right now? She asked softly. Yes, I do, but she will suffer more now that he is back. Especially now that he knows about Saki. It will be difficult for her with him around. I just don't want to see him around her, he answered in a sad tone. Ino made him meet her eyes and said, I never wanted to tell you this, but I think this is the only way to make you understand. Sasuke's look became curious, but he didn't say anything. Do you know the reason why Sakura couldn't say Naruto how much she loved him? She asked, but didn't let him answer. It was yours and Naruto's rejection, she answered. Sasuke's look became confused. What was she trying to say? Do you know why they broke up? Because Naruto didn't trust her. And do you know why? It's because he saw her kissing you that day before our marriage, she finished with her eyes still staring at his winded eyes. Sasuke's eyes winded by Ino's last words. He saw us? He asked, still not believing what Ino had told him. Yes, he did. 3 years now I was watching you closely and I concluded that you felt guilty for Sakura's condition. So here I am telling you that you were the reason Sakura and Naruto broke up. Sasuke looked away and said nothing. Ino saw the tears Sasuke was holding back. She knew this was going to happen someday. She couldn't hide it from him forever. She placed her left hand on his right cheek and made him look straight into her eyes. You can still fix this, Sasuke, she said with a soft voice and kissed his lips softly. Sasuke smiled for a while after the kiss and said, you are right. I can still fix this, but first I am going to have a talk with that loser. A smile formed on her face and said before she kissed him, just don't try to kill him. I won't, Sasuke said, smiling, and embraced Ino, deepening the kiss. I love you, Sasuke said while fondling gently Ino's long blonde hair. I love you more, she said, smiling, and then a grin replaced the smile. Say, how did you feel when Sakura kissed you? Did she kiss you the way I do? Her kiss was nothing compared to yours, he said, and tried to kiss her but didn't let him. I don't know if I should believe you, she said with the grin still on her face. Oh really? Then I shall make you believe me, he said, grinning, and stood up holding Ino bridal style. I see what you are thinking. Well, maybe I will believe you after this. After this you will never have doubts again, he said while kissing her. Somewhere else in Konoha, a pink-haired woman was trying to get some sleep without any results. Naruto's comeback flustered her. Even though from the outside she looked cool and calm, inside her, she was trying not to fall apart. 3 years ago she promised to herself to erase all the love she had for him, to hate him, to forget the good times they had together, and that the only relation they would have when he would return back would be that of the father and mother, nothing more. People say easier said than done, they must know something. All she had promised to herself 3 years ago had vanished into thin air the moment she heard his voice. Her heart was shouting out loud to run back to him, but her mind reminded her, the pain he had caused her. She touched her face with her fingers and realized she was crying. It's been a long time since she had cried for him. She got up from her bed and went to the kitchen. She then took a glass and poured some sake and sat on a chair next to the table. Did she do the right thing talking to him in that strict and harsh manner? Did she do the right thing to blame him for everything that had happened between them? Wasn't she at fault too? Of course she was, but it was the only way to keep herself strong. I can't take this anymore, she said to herself, and cupped her face with her palms and started crying again. It had only been a day since Naruto's return, and she was already a mess. I must do something. I can't be like this. I must be strong for my sake. She drank the alcohol like water before she made her final decision. I won't go back to him. I won't fall for him again, she said determinedly, but deep down she knew that her heart belonged to him for years now. It was a beautiful morning in Konoha. The sky was cloudless with the sun shining brightly above the village hidden in leaves. Naruto decided to go for a walk around the village he loved the most. He wanted to visit so many places. 3 years were enough to make him miss this place, and the people they lived in it. Although the people hated him in the past, he didn't care because now they respected him. He was a hero after all. It was almost midday when he found himself in front of the academy. A smile formed on his face as he remembered his days back in the academy, the bad and the good times, the rivalry he once had with Sasuke, and of course his crush with Sakura. As her smiling face flashed in his mind, a sudden realization hit him. He had a daughter with Sakura. Today is the day when I will meet my daughter, Naruto said, smiling. He still couldn't believe that he had a child with Sakura. If only they could be like a family. If only he could talk to her and convince her for one last chance, one more risk for their sake, for Saki's sake. His thoughts interrupted when a male voice brought him back to reality. There you are. His eyes winded when he turned around and saw a black-haired man. Sasuke, he said with seriousness. He could see through his eyes the reason why Sasuke was looking for him. It wasn't to welcome him. The reason was Sakura. When he left Konoha like a haunted dog, he didn't say a word of farewell. Not even to his best friend. We need to talk, Sasuke said with a serious look on his face. I know, he answered back. An hour later, both shinobi were sitting in the kitchen at Naruto's apartment. Sasuke was looking into his eyes in silence. Naruto didn't even dare to speak. He patiently waited for his outburst. It was Sasuke after all. When someone dared to hurt the people he held dear to him, nothing could stop him. Not bearing it any longer, Naruto turned his face away and whispered, I am sorry. Sorry won't erase the hurtful memories, he said loudly. I know, he said looking down at the table. You know nothing. The last time we talked I thought I put some sense in you, but I was wrong. You left her like a coward, he said, and stood up to calm his nerves without any results. I know I made a mistake, but she was the one who ended our relationship. What I was supposed to do? Stay here in this village knowing that Sakura and I were through and that I couldn't be close to her anymore? He stood up and continued with clenched fists. I hurt her feelings. I broke the pledge I made to her. Living in the same village would only make her suffer more, and I didn't want this, he finished and looked away from Sasuke's gaze. Sasuke hit his palms on the table and said enraged, You are wrong, Naruto. Do you know how much she suffered because of you? I can only imagine, but now, she seemed fine when I saw her yesterday. What you saw yesterday is the result after she gave birth to Saki. Before that, she was suffering. She was crying all day long, saying it was her fault that you left the village, but she is fine now. No, she is not. She is still suffering, but she doesn't show it. Sasuke, please, I know her better than anyone else. She is not dash. You know nothing about her, and you know why. Because she became a different person since you left. Things are different, no. What do you want me to do, Sasuke? There is nothing I can do now. The only thing that joins us is Saki. In a few years she will find someone better than me and bear his children. Naruto didn't realize when Sasuke came close to him and grabbed him from his collar. Listen to me, Naruto. Sakura can't be with anyone else because she still loves you, even though she doesn't admit it to herself. And even if she could be with someone else, she couldn't have children with him. He pinned him on the wall and continued. And the reason is because she can't get pregnant, he shouted. Naruto's eyes winded from what he heard, but before he could say anything, Sasuke punched him on his face and fell on the floor. There was a 5-minute silence in the room. Sasuke's deep breaths were the only thing that could be heard. Naruto didn't stand up after Sasuke's punch. He was just sitting on the floor holding his head and crying like a baby. Why are you crying? I have just realized that I ruined her life. Do you think crying would make her life better? Stop crying and do something instead. I don't know what to do. I love her. I love her more than I can bear. Tell me something I don't know. He lied out his hand to Naruto, who grabbed it and stood up. There is only one way to make things better. Get close to her. You said it by yourself, she has changed. I don't think she is willing to come back to me after all I have done to her, he said, and his look fell down on the floor. Sasuke then placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, smiling, You are Naruto Uzumaki, the most unpredictable person who doesn't know when to give up. Naruto's eyes winded by his words. Sasuke, you dashed. Before he could finish, Sasuke let his hand fall to his side and started to leave the place. He opened the door but didn't leave. You have to thank Ino for not killing you. 3 years now all I wanted to do was to kill you for what you have done, but I have realized that in a way it was my fault for your breakup. But if you ever break her heart again I will kill you, and that is a promise, he said, and closed the door. Naruto's eyes were still winded in shock. He couldn't believe that Sasuke knew and didn't say anything. Naruto never dared to say something like that to him, telling him that he saw him with Sakura kissing each other. If Sasuke knew that he didn't trust Sakura because of the kiss, he would be disappointed. But now he knew, and yet he didn't scold him. Well, at least he got a punch. Mommy, isn't Daddy late? Said a pink-haired girl while watching Sakura making dinner. No honey, he is not. Don't worry, he will be here in a minute, said Sakura, smiling. She said that her daughter was excited to meet her father. Sakura tried her best to make Saki love her father, and she did it. Mommy, is Daddy going to stay with us from now on? Saki asked. Sakura's eyes winded for a moment. What was she supposed to say? Listen, honey, Daddy can't stay with us, but he will always come here to visit you, or you can spend all the time you want with him. But why Daddy can't stay with us? Little Saki asked. Really, why can't he? Didn't she love him? Of course she did love him. She loved him and he loved her. They had a child together. What was the problem then? It's complicated, she answered, and her eyes started to well up. Saki sighed and said, troublesome. Sakura formed a smile on her face. I think she must stop hanging out with Shikamaru for a while, she said to herself. Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard the doorbell ring. It's Daddy, little Saki shouted out loud excitedly. What are you waiting for? Go and open the door, Sakura said, smiling to her daughter. Okay, Saki answered with a grin similar to her father's. Little Saki opened the door with excitement to see 2 legs. She looked up and saw the face of her father for the first time in her life. Both were staring into each other's eyes without even speaking. Different kinds of emotions were conquering their hearts and minds. Happiness, surprise, anger, relief, grievance. After 5 seconds of silence, Naruto knelt on his knees and looked at Saki with a smile on his face. Hello, Saki. How are you? He paused and saw that the little girl was staring at him with her big emerald green eyes without speaking. God, you look just like your mother, he thought. He then placed a hand on her shoulder and said, Don't be afraid of me. I am your dash. He paused for a while. He still could get used to that phrase, I am your father, he finally said with a grin on his face. Seeing his grin made little Saki's fear go away, and with a big grin just like her father's, she gave him a big hug and screamed with happiness, "Daddy, you finally came." Naruto got aback by the sudden hug of his daughter, but then he hugged her back and stood up with Saki in his arms. "I think we should get inside, what do you say?" Naruto asked, and Saki pulled away from his hug and said while rubbing the back of her head, "Oops, I forgot. Let's get in, Daddy. Mommy made us our favorite food." "Oh? And what is our favorite food?" he asked with a smile while closing the door behind him. "Ramen," she shouted out loud with her hand up to the air. Naruto laughed with all his heart as he made his way into the kitchen with Saki still in his arms. He came to a stop when his eyes fell on the woman he loved. They both stared at each other, struggling to find the right words. Eventually Naruto spoke first. Hey, she said, and started placing the plates on the table. "Dinner is ready," she said, avoiding his gaze. "I will sit next to Daddy," said little Saki with excitement. Naruto smiled and ruffled her pink hair. It had been an hour since they finished their dinner and moved into the living room. Little Saki was sitting next to her father, asking questions about his adventures. Saki's smile never left her face. Sakura, on the other hand, was watching the two in front of her getting along. She knew from the beginning that those two would be fine when they would meet each other, especially for Naruto. He had always wanted to make a family he never had since he was born. Now he had a daughter who loved him, although she never saw him since she was born. He had a daughter, but he didn't have a wife. He had a daughter, and yet he couldn't be with her at night. "What shall I do?" she asked herself. Sakura was brought back to reality when she heard Naruto's voice. "What did you say, Naruto?" Saki fell asleep. "I think we should take her at her bedroom," said Naruto while fondling her beautiful face. "Right, follow me," she said, and stood up. Naruto then took his daughter's bridal style and followed her to Saki's bedroom. When Sakura lit up the lights, Naruto saw that the room had a pink color, and on the walls there were pictures of Saki's with all her uncles and aunts. What took his attention was the fact that the wall behind her bed had an empty big frame. "You can lay her down now," Sakura said, and pulled the sheets aside. Naruto then lays little Saki down and covers her with the sheets while kissing her on her forehead. A tear ran down Sakura's cheek but wiped it quickly. Naruto then looked up at her and then left the room, trying not to show his sorrow. He wanted to stay all night next to his daughter, watching her beautiful face while sleeping. He knew that he wanted one more thing: to have his cherry blossom into his strong arms and never let go of her again. He was sitting on the couch waiting for her to come. He felt her presence and looked up at her. "What is that frame on the wall above her bed for?" he asked, curious. "She said that she wants to take a photograph with you and hang it there," she answered, and sat across Naruto. "I see. Thank you," he said, looking into her eyes, smiling. "What are you thanking me for?" "For talking to Saki about me and made her love me even if I wasn't here," he said, and looked down at the floor, ashamed for his last phrase. "She is your daughter. She had the right to know. I am not a bad person, Naruto. I would never turn your own daughter against you," she said, offended. "Sorry, I didn't mean it like that," he quickly apologized. They were staring at each other in silence. They had so much to say and yet nothing came out of their mouths. What was weird though was the fact that they could hear each other just by looking into each other's eyes. Naruto would ask for a second chance, but Sakura would refuse. Naruto broke the silence and said, smiling, "She looks just like you." Sakura looked away and said, "Yes, but she has your personality." "That is a bad thing, right?" he joked. "Maybe," she said with a weak smile. "Well, the good thing is that she had your looks, your softly pink hair, your beautiful eyes, and that big forehead of yours, which makes me dash." He was cut off by her, who stood up and said, bewildered, "I think it is better if you leave now. Saki is sleeping and there is nothing else you can do about her right now." "What about us? Isn't there anything I can do for us?" he asked her, looking at her with seriousness. Sakura then looked at him with a dark look and said, "What have you destroyed? There is nothing you can do to fix it. You and I are over." She reached for the door and opened it. "And now, if you please leave, I have a lot of work tomorrow and I need some rest," she said, looking away from his gaze. "As you wish then," he said, and started to leave, but stopped next to Sakura and looked at her dark face. "I will be waiting for you," he said, and left the apartment. It had been 2 weeks since Naruto came back and everything was perfect for little Saki. Ever since she met her father, she never left his side, and that made the half part of Naruto's heart filled with happiness. What about the other half? That other half belonged to his Sakura-chan, and it wasn't full of joy. Her outburst that night when he asked about their relationship filled his heart with sadness and anger at the same time. Why was the only one at fault? Why was the only one who destroyed their relationship? Wasn't she the one who couldn't say the phrase to begin with? Wasn't she the one who kissed Sasuke a day before his wedding? Wasn't she the one who ended their relationship saying that it was wrong from the beginning? Was he at fault for asking her to express her feelings? Was he at fault for having doubts about her true feelings? Where was that fault then? What he might be at fault for was the fact that he left the village. If he hadn't left Konoha, Sakura wouldn't have lost the ability to have children. But even so, what was he supposed to do? Stay in the village knowing that he was over with Sakura? He just couldn't bear the fact that he broke the pledge he made to her. He promised that he would never break her heart, and in a way he did it. And so the only solution was for him to leave the village for her, and his sake. He wanted to ask these questions to Sakura, but he didn't have the strength to fight with her again. At least not now. It was a beautiful morning in the village hidden in the leaves. The streets were filled with people. Some people were just walking through the streets, and some other people were shopping for what they needed to buy for their needs. Their voices could be heard by a pink-haired kunoichi who was in her office doing some paperwork. Or at least she was looking at the papers. Since that night she couldn't take out of her mind the way she spoke to him. Why did she speak like that to him? That was the second time she spoke to him in that harsh manner. What was wrong with her? Her thoughts were interrupted when a knock came at her door. "Come in," she said, and the door opened to reveal a mad Ino. "What is Ino? What is wrong with you?" Ino interrupted her. "Huh? What are you talking about?" she asked, curious. "Why are you acting so sullen and sulky in front of the interns? And why do you get so mad and minus mistakes they do? Dropping a syringe by a mistake is not a reason to get mad at the interns," she said, furious, as she got closer to the desk. "If they don't learn now, they will never learn," she answered back as cool as she could. Ino then hit her palms on the desk and said, "Cut the crap and tell me what is wrong with you." Sakura's eyes winded by Ino's actions. Her eyes then softened and looked at the desk in front of her and said, "It's Naruto." Ino then sat on a chair next to the desk and asked, "What about him?" "I might have done something bad at him," she confessed. "What do you mean? Did you hit him?" Ino asked, confused. "No," she said, and looked up at her. "What did you do then?" Ino asked, anxious. "I blamed him for everything that had happened between us," she answered in shame. "What? Why did you do such a thing, Sakura?" "It just came out of my mouth," she said, and looked away. "That is not an excuse, Sakura. I don't know, Ino. When he asked me what was going to happen with us, I felt pain and anger at the same time, and I just blamed him for everything. It's just that when he is around me I feel nervousness, and the only way to keep myself cool is..." She was cut off by Ino, who said in an indignant tone, "To attack straight through his heart?" Sakura's eyes winded at Ino's statement. Did she really do that? Sakura looked away from Ino's gaze, ashamed, and stayed in silence. Ino sighed and rubbed the back of her neck. She got tired of Sakura playing the victim of this entire situation, so she decided to make Sakura understand who the real victim was. Is it his fault for this entire situation? Sakura got surprised by the sudden question. "Well?" Ino said, anxious, waiting for her answer. "No, it is not his entire fault," she admitted. "So you are saying that you are both at fault?" "Yes," she answered back. A small grin appeared on Ino's face as she made her next question. "Who started all this?" Sakura thought for a while as she remembered the night when Naruto asked her to say the phrase, "If I have told him the phrase, we wouldn't have broke up," she said to herself, and answered at Ino's question. "Me. And who ended this relationship?" The night when they broke up flashed into her mind as she remembered her last words. Being together was wrong from the beginning. "Me," she answered timidly at Ino's question. "So where is Naruto's fault?" she asked as her grin became bigger. "He didn't trust my feelings because of that kiss. That's why he wanted to hear from you the phrase Yubaka," she said, incensed. "I was going to tell him that night that I love him, but he cut me off, saying that he didn't believe how things had happened when I kissed Sasuke. He said that I was lying just like I lied back in the Iron Country. He always brought that up every single time we had a fight. What I was supposed to do?" she said, trying to justify herself. "I am not going to tell you what you should have done back then, but I am going to tell you this," she said as she crossed her arms. "Stop acting like you are the victim in front of him and think about Saki's future. If you continue acting like this, You will make him leave again, and that will hurt Saki's feelings. You have been through a lot in the past. I was there and I know how much you suffered. But all you have been through was your entire fault. Think about it. She sighed and continued, I know you don't want to find yourself heartbroken again, but I also know that you love Sakura and you can't hide it from me. Naruto loves you too, and all he wants is a second chance. Sakura couldn't speak. She stayed silent, thinking carefully about Ino's words. After 5 minutes of silence, Ino spoke again. By the way, Sasuke told Naruto that you can't have children anymore. Sakura's eyes winded at Ino's statement. It's my fault, really. I said to him that he could fix things between you and Naruto, but in the end he made him feel guilty for leaving Konoha 3 years ago. She stood up and bore at the door. I don't know how you and Sasuke could behave in that harsh manner towards him, but think about how he feels when his old teammates and friends accuse him for something he is not at fault, she said, and left the office, leaving Sakura concerned. It was 7 o'clock at night when Sakura left the hospital and started bearing at Naruto's house to pick up little Saki. The conversation she had with Ino made her realize how true her words were. She had spent the entire day answering to herself the questions Ino had asked her, and every time she asked herself those questions, the answers were still the same. It was true. Sakura was the only one at fault in this situation, and she knew it. Besides, wasn't that the reason she fell into depression when Naruto left Konoha? Didn't she fall into depression because she felt guilty for Naruto's flight? Then why did she blame him for leaving? She knew the answer. She wanted to look strong in front of him. If she had accepted in front of him the fact that she was the one at fault, she would have collapsed into his arms at that same moment and asked for forgiveness. She would have lost the will to keep herself strong. Even so, wasn't there some other way of telling him that they were over? That she didn't have the strength to get into a relationship again? She stopped in front of his apartment and knocked the door. After a few seconds, Naruto opened the door. Sakura, he said, and stepped aside so she could get inside. Hey Naruto, I am sorry I was late. There was so much work at the hospital today, she lied as she stepped inside the building. There is no need to apologize to Sakura. Besides, I enjoy having Saki around me. The more time I spend with her, the better it is for me to get to know her, he said, smiling as they sat on the couch. Sakura then looked around and asked, Where is Saki? She is sleeping at my room. Let me go and get her, he said as he stood up. No, wait, Sakura said. Naruto then turned around and looked at her, puzzled. I need to talk to you, she said, and looked away. What is it? He said as he sat down. Sakura found herself bewildered. Every time he got closer to her, she was struggling to not fall apart and immerse into his strong arms, forgetting everything about the past. She took a deep breath and said, her eyes still avoiding his. I have been told that Sasuke came to you and said that I can't have children anymore. Is that true? Naruto's eyes softened and filled with sorrow. Yes, it is true. I am sorry, Sakura. He lied. Sakura interrupted him as she turned her gaze at him. His eyes widened in shock by Sakura's words. He tried to speak, but Sakura cut him off and said, Sasuke lied to you? I don't know why he did this, but the truth is that I can perfectly have children in the future. You don't have to feel guilty anymore, she said and sighed. Naruto, I am the one that should feel guilty. I am sorry. I shouldn't have treated you in such a harsh manner. My behavior towards you was inappropriate. It's not your fault for our disassembled relationship. I am the one who messed up everything, she finished, and her gaze fell to the floor, feeling ashamed. Naruto was still shocked by Sakura's words. He still couldn't believe that Sasuke had lied to him. He felt relieved that Sakura didn't lose the ability of having children, but even so, how could Sasuke do such a thing? How could he lie to him and punch him because of something that in reality wasn't true? He made a note in his head, though, to return that punch. What made him wonder what was going to happen now that Sakura accepted the fact that she was the one who screwed up everything. He took a deep breath and said with his eyes closed, 2 weeks ago I asked you about us, and you said that there will be no us because I have destroyed everything between us. Now you are saying that you are the one that messed up everything, so I am asking you again. He opened his eyes and looked at her, and continued, what is going to happen between us from now on? Sakura's eyes widened in shock at his question. She couldn't believe that he still wanted to be with her after all she had said and done to him. She knew one thing though, she was afraid to get into a relationship again. She was afraid to find herself heartbroken again. There is not us anymore. What there is between us is our daughter. That is what unites us right now. Sakura, I don't understand. Why can't we build a new relationship? Please Naruto, don't make things more difficult than they already are for me. The only relationship we will have is that of a mother and a father. This kind of relationship must stay strong for Saki's sake, she said, and looked away from his gaze. Naruto got incensed by Sakura. How can their relationship be distant and strong at the same time? He took a deep breath to calm himself and said, Okay Sakura, I will do as you wish then, but I am telling you this. I will be still waiting for you. I will never give on you. Stop moving, otherwise I can't put your elbow back. I can't help it, it hurts. Oh? The great Uchiha feels pain? Cut the jocks, Sakura, Sasuke said, and Sakura smiled. Okay. What happened anyway? How did that happen to you? She asked as she got serious. It was Naruto, he answered back and turned away in embarrassment. Naruto did this to you? She asked with a surprised tone in her voice. She then sighed and said, Let me guess. He did this because you lied to him that I couldn't have children anymore. Am I right? So you are the one who told him about it. Did Ino tell you? Sasuke asked. Sakura then nodded, and with an abruptly move she put Sasuke's elbow back in its position. Ouch! He shouted out loud with pain. That is your punishment for telling such a lie. I hope you have learnt your lesson now. Hold your arm for me, she said as she took an elbow brace. I just wanted to help you guys, he tried to excuse himself. How could such a lie help me and Naruto? She said as she took his arm and tried to put in the elbow brace. Ouch! Are you trying to kill me? Show some gratitude for helping you right now, otherwise I would have sent an intern to put back your elbow. I am very disappointed by you. Now ask my question, she said as she finally applied the elbow brace. When I first spoke to him, he wasn't willing to win you back because he saw in your eyes that you were fine without him. So I decided to make him feel guilty by making him believe that you can have children. When I lied at him, I punched him at the time he finished as Sakura took a small lantern to examine his eyes for concussion. Sasuke, I appreciate the fact that you wanted to help, but what you have said is unforgivable. You didn't have the right to tell such a lie. What you did is a serious crime, she said as she finished her examination and sat in her chair. Sasuke stayed silent for a while and said, I just wanted to help. I wanted to help myself too by making the same mistake as you did. I blamed him for everything and that wasn't the right thing to do, Sakura said as she wrote a recipe. Did I hurt your feelings that much? Sasuke asked as he sat on a chair across Sakura. Sakura's eyes widened in shock at his sudden question. She knew what Sasuke was talking about. I haven't apologized for the way I treated you 14 years ago. When Naruto left 3 years ago and you fell into depression, I couldn't help but wonder to myself if you felt that way when I left that night. I was wondering if I hurt your feelings that much as Naruto did, he said as his eyes softened, and continued. I came to the conclusion that I hurt your feelings more than I expected, so I felt the need to protect you from him. I didn't want him to hurt your feelings again. That was my way of telling you how much I am sorry about my harsh manners towards you. He looked up at Sakura's winded eyes and continued as a smile formed on his face. But in the end I wanted to help you guys to get together. And that because Ino made me understand that only if you are next to him you will find again happiness. Sakura was still speechless by Sasuke's words. She couldn't believe that Sasuke actually admitted that he regretted the way he treated her back then. She then smiled and said, I accept your apology, Sasuke, but I will not forgive you for lying to Naruto. Really, I am surprised that Naruto didn't break your other arm as well. I don't want to talk about it, he said and turned his head around in embarrassment. Sakura then laughed, and said, You know, I am surprised Ino didn't knock you out when you told her about your lie. Her punishment is worse than Naruto's. I am to be sleeping on the couch for 3 weeks, he said as his face turned red in embarrassment. Ouch, that must really hurt, she said and laughed again. Sasuke then stood up and said, Okay, I am leaving now, I can't stand watching you laughing at me. Wait, take this first, she said as she gave him a recipe. I wrote some painkillers in case you feel any pain. You will be wearing this shoulder brace for a month, so no training. Got that? She said in a serious tone. Okay, I get it. No training, he said and started bearing at the door when he stopped and turned around. What are you going to do now with Naruto? Are you going back to him? He asked seriously. Sakura then sighed and said, No, I am not going back to him. I don't feel mentally strong enough to get into a relationship again. A smile formed on Sasuke's face. No matter what you say right now, no matter how you feel right now, you will return to him, he said, and closed the door, leaving Sakura surprised by his choice of words. It had been 3 months since Naruto's return, and things got better between Sakura and Naruto. Since the night when she apologized to him, she became a different person. As a result, her heart started asking for him. But she was telling herself all over again that their relationship is that of a father's and mother's relationship, and that would never change. But as people say never, because in the end you do exactly the opposite of what you have said. So 3 months had passed, and they had come closer to each other. It was like they had started from the beginning, and now they were acting like friends who had a child together. Was that right? Can you be friends with someone, and at the same time have a child with him? And what about their feelings? These questions were bugging both of them, but they never dared to ask one another for their own reasons. Naruto, since Sakura's apology, never brought up the relationship issue. He knew that if he were to do that, Sakura would get upset. As a result, their relationship would be back to zero. He loved her with all his heart, and couldn't bear to lose her again. But time was passing by, and the more he spent time with her, the more he wanted her, he needed her, he desired her. He just wanted to look into her green emerald eyes and tell her that he loved her more than anything else in this world. Sakura, on the other hand, had her own fight to encounter inside her heart. When Sasuke came that day at the hospital telling her that Naruto left her, she buried her feelings deep inside her heart, and persuaded it to feel bitterness and indifference for him. And in a way she did it. But now these feelings were struggling to rise from the depths of her heart, and fight with the bitterness that conquers the surface of it. With every Naruto's visit, Sakura's heart was pumping like crazy with joy, but when the night came and he had to leave, her heart filled with sadness and sorrow. And as the days passed by, the more difficult it was for her to bear the pain inside her heart. All she wanted was for him to hold her into his warm embrace, and whisper tenderly into her ear how much he loved her. But she was selfish enough to admit it, even to herself. It was a beautiful night in the village hidden in the leaves. The moon was full and the stars were shining brightly around it. It was the perfect night for a wedding. Kiba's and Hinata's wedding. Kiba and Hinata were dating for 5 years until the year before, when Kiba finally popped the question and Hinata accepted with joy. All the people from the village came to their wedding to wish happiness to the young couple. All their friends were there as well, sitting at a large table drinking and laughing. Sakura was sitting next to Naruto. It was only natural as they came together for the wedding. Sakura said they were doing this for their daughter's sake, but only she knew that the reason was for her to be next to him. It had been 2 hours since they came to the wedding when little Saki came and stood between Naruto and Sakura and said, "Daddy, Ami showed me her Sharingan. Do I have that power too?" Naruto got aback by what Saki asked, but he smiled and said, "No honey, that power belongs to the Uchiha clan." He paused and turned his face across the table where Sasuke was looking at him with a grin. Naruto then turned his face to Saki and said proudly, "But don't worry honey. The Uzumaki clan has its own power too." "Yeah, the power of stupidity," Sasuke said, and everybody started laughing. "Hey! What's that supposed to mean?" Naruto asked, offended. "It means you are stupid, you idiot," he said while laughing. "I don't want to be stupid," Saki said while looking at the ground. Sakura, who saw all this, smiled and then placed a hand on Saki's shoulder, which made her look up at her mother. "Don't listen to your uncle, sweetie. He is jealous of your father." "He is? Why?" little Saki asked, curious. "Because your father's power is the strongest power in the world," she answered, smiling. "Really? And what is his power?" she asked excitedly. Sakura then placed a hand where Saki's little heart was and said, smiling, "This is his power. Your father has a great heart, and with this he changed the whole world. He made it better." After she finished her phrase, everyone was looking at her with their mouths wide open. She looked at Naruto, who was looking at her with soft eyes and a sweet smile. "Thank you, Sakura C-. I am going to get some drinks," Sakura said and started to walk away. Naruto was looking at Sakura walking away with a shocked look. He hadn't heard her say such sweet words to him since he came back. "She is ready now," Sasuke said while looking at Sakura walking away. "What do you mean she is ready?" Naruto asked, confused. Sasuke then turned and looked at Naruto and said with a grin, "She is ready to open her heart to you again." Naruto's eyes winded for a while but then softened. "You think so?" he asked while looking at Sakura, who was standing at the bar ordering a drink. Ino, who watched all this, stood up and hit her palms on the table. Of course she is ready, Naruto. You can make your move now. Naruto said nothing. He was shocked by Ino's last phrase, make my move? Naruto thought to himself, now look what you've done to my angel, you got her mad, Sasuke said and stood up. He then took Ino's hand and said, would you make me the honor and dance with me, my angel? Ino's cheeks flushed red. She then smiled and said with a soft voice, I would love to. This is how you make your move, Sasuke said, grinning at him, and left the table with Ino hand in hand for the dance floor. 2 glasses of wine please, Sakura said to the barman, and he left to prepare the order. She sighed and looked at the dance floor where Hinata and Kiba were dancing. What got into me and said these words in front of everyone? She asked herself when suddenly she heard a hiccup on her right. She turned around and saw Tsunade drinking like a maniac. Tsunade-sama, haven't you drunk enough? She said, worried as she tried to take away the bottle of sake, but Tsunade didn't let her take it, and said, Sakura, please don't say to me whenever I drink too much or not. This is what keeps me sane right now, she said with a hiccup again. Hokage-sama, I think you are oversaying things. Now give me that bottle and let me take you at your house, she said as she tried to take the bottle again. No, she refused as she put the bottle on the other side and said, looking into her eyes, I am not oversaying things, Sakura. Sake erases the pain I feel inside my heart. I don't understand, Tsunade-sama. What pain are you talking about? She asked, confused. A bitter smile appeared on Tsunade's face as her gaze fell at the dance floor. Look at them, Sakura. Sakura turned around and looked at the young couple dancing in a slow rhythm. What about them? She asked with curiosity. They are happy. From now on they will have each other for the bad and the good moments. They will be having each other's warmth when they go to bed. From now on Hinata is going to have Kiba next to her when she wakes up. They will be having their breakfast together. Eventually they will have children in the future, and with them they will make sad and happy memories. I don't understand why you feel pain about Tsunade-sama? She asked, confused. My pain does not consider them but me. She took a sip of her sake and continued. I am an old hag, Sakura. I don't have a family of my own. I don't have a man to hold me in his arms when I go to bed to keep me warm. Neither do I have children that will have given me sad and happy memories to remember. She stopped as she poured sake into her glass and took a sip. I am drinking because it hurts, Sakura. Being all alone hurts. The pain becomes even stronger knowing that it's my fault for being all alone. If I had shown my true feelings to Jiraiya back then and not been selfish, I might have grandchildren driving me crazy right now. If I have told him that I loved him, he might be alive right now, she said as tears poured down her cheeks. Because of my selfishness, all I have when I go home is an empty house and a cold bed, she said as she took one more sip of sake. Tsunade-sama. She couldn't finish her phrase when Tsunade took one more bottle of sake and stood up. Sakura, you are my apprentice. I have passed down to you with great success my medical and fighting knowledge, and I am proud of it. But as your Shisa, I forbid you to follow my steps regarding the choices I have made in my life, she said as she placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder. Sakura, don't make the same mistakes I did. Naruto loves you more than anything, and I can tell that you love him too. So stop being selfish if you don't want to spend the rest of your life in an empty house and a cold bed. One day Saki will leave the house to make her own family. What will you do when that time comes? She finished and left the bar while Sakura stood there frozen by her Shisa's true words. 15 minutes later Sakura came back with 2 drinks in her hands and sat next to Naruto. Here, I thought you would want some, Sakura said and handed a drink to him. She didn't dare to look into his eyes. Thank you, he said while looking at her. Both were watching their friends dancing a song with a slow rhythm without talking to each other. Make my move, huh? Naruto asked himself. Sakura was watching her friends dancing on the dance floor and a smile formed on her face. She was happy that all of her friends had settled down. If only she had the luck of her friends. If only she had the one she loved by her side as her husband. If only she, Saki and Naruto were a complete family. But she knew that this would never happen because she didn't want to see herself heartbroken again. Who am I kidding? Tsunade-sama is right. Here I am being selfish and trying to hold my emotions hidden so I will never have to suffer again, and yet I feel pain and sorrow for being all alone. I am hopeless, she said to herself while sighing in frustration. Her eyes though winded when in front of her came and stood Naruto offering his hand. Can I have this dance, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked with eyes full of love and lust. Sakura on the other hand went aback by the suffix. How long had it been since she had heard him calling her with that suffix? How long had it been since she had heard him calling her name with that soft, full of lust tone in his voice? Seeing his lust into his blue oceanic eyes, Sakura couldn't resist his offer. It was like the old times, when Naruto would have asked for something from her with that same look on his face, and the same tone in his voice, and Sakura would always do it without a second thought. She took his hand and stood up while looking into his blue eyes. Naruto tightened his hold on Sakura's hand and led her to the dance floor. Once they reached the stage, they stood there like statues looking into each other's eyes, not knowing what they should do next. Make your move, Naruto kept repeating to himself. He clenched his fists trying to calm himself, and then just like that, he gently took her hands and placed them on his chest. He then hugged Sakura from her waist, and both started moving at the rhythm of the music while staring at each other's eyes. As the song went by, Sakura felt that the pain and the sorrow she had been erased from inside her heart, and that the love she once had for Naruto was now slopping over. Maybe it was because of his soft, full of love gaze, or perhaps because he was holding her into his strong arms. And now she was lost into his blue oceanic eyes, not knowing that all of her friends were watching them in shock. You look beautiful tonight, Sakura-chan, Naruto said, smiling at her. Sakura was brought back to reality, and looked away embarrassed. Thank you, she said as she turned her face and looked up at him. She didn't know why, but she wanted to tell him something. Something that she hid deep in her heart for a long time. Naruto, I need to tell you something, you see Shh. Naruto said as he placed a finger on her soft lips and continued, you don't have to say anything. Just let me look into those beautiful eyes of yours and get lost into them. They both were dancing in silence with their eyes locked into each other, getting lost in a world where none was there, where their issues and problems were erased. Naruto bent over and touched Sakura's forehead with his. Sakura tightened her grip on his chest and both closed their eyes. Their breaths became heavy, ready to give in to their desires for a soft, passionate, and full of lust kiss. And just as their lips were ready to touch one another, little Saki came pulling Sakura's dress. Mommy, I want to go home. Their eyes opened slowly. Their hearts were bouncing fast and their breaths were still heavy. Sakura's eyes winded in realization of what she was going to do. She hesitantly broke out from his warm embrace and looked down at her daughter and said while caressing her hair, "What is the matter, honey? Are you feeling well?" "I am a tired mommy. I want to sleep," she said and immersed into her mother's embrace. Naruto then kneeled down and said while smiling at his daughter, "Okay, sweetie. How about I will carry you until we get home?" "Yeah," little Saki shouted with excitement, and Naruto took her into his warm embrace and started walking away from the dance floor. Sakura stayed there watching Naruto's back, thinking of what it would have happened if Saki hadn't interrupted them. "What was I thinking?" she asked herself, terrified. "Haven't I learned my lesson yet?" her selfish self asked. Naruto then turned around and asked confused, "Aren't you coming, Sakura? Saki is tired." It was like a special request from Naruto that he would be the one to put his daughter to bed and tell her a story before he would kiss her forehead for good night. Sakura didn't deny it, knowing that those kinds of bonds were important to him. Sakura then smiled and said as she started bearing at Naruto, "Don't leave without saying goodbye to Kiba and Hinata Yubaka." 30 minutes later the Uzumaki family reached the apartment. Once they got inside, they went straight to little Saki's bedroom. Sakura turned on the lights and pulled back the sheets of the bed and Naruto put the sleepy girl onto it. Naruto then clothed little Saki and kissed her gently on the forehead. He was ready to leave when little Saki grabbed him from the hem of his jacket and said, "Daddy, stay here tonight please?" This request was always a problem for both parents. Naruto knew that he couldn't stay. It would have been difficult for his cherry blossom and he didn't want to fluster her. He looked for a while at Sakura and then turned to Saki. "Sweetie, you know I can't stay. Daddy has a lot of work to do." "You always say that lame excuse," little Saki complained. Naruto smiled at Saki's intelligence. "I can tell you a story though," he said while grinning. "Okay. But I don't want to hear that same story again," she complained again. Naruto thought for a while and an idea came into his mind. He might have a chance to stay here tonight after all. "Okay, I have a story. It will make you to want to hear it lots of times," he said with a grin. "Yeah!" little Saki shouted with excitement. "If you excuse me I will make my leave. I need to change, Sakura said and started to walk away, but Naruto got her by her wrist. Wait, why don't you stay and listen to the story with us? You will like it, he said, looking into her eyes. Daddy is right, Mommy. Stay here with us and listen to the story. It will be like a family thing, said the pink-haired girl with joy. At the sound of that phrase, their eyes widened in shock. Naruto's grip tightened on Sakura's wrist. They found themselves in shock because they knew that the word family wasn't only Saki's dream but theirs as well. Okay, then I will stay, Sakura finally accepted and sat on the bed next to Saki and across Naruto. It had passed a minute and Naruto hadn't started yet. He was looking at Sakura with all his seriousness. Daddy, are you going to tell the story or not? Little Saki asked, frustrated. Okay. Now let's see, he said, trying to find a way to start the story. Once upon a time, there were 3 friends. A black-haired boy, a blonde-haired boy and a beautiful pink-haired girl. Sakura's eyes winded in realization of what the story was about. Naruto, what are you trying to pull now? The girl sounds like Mom, said little Saki excitedly. Naruto smiled and said, you are right, but let me continue. Okay, so, the girl was in love with the black-haired boy, but unfortunately he didn't feel the same way. One day that boy left his friends and the country he lived in to seek something more than just an ordinary life. Because of his flight, the girl got miserable. Hearing the story she had once experienced, Sakura's gaze became sad. Although it had happened a long time ago, the wound hadn't closed entirely and had left a little bitterness. I feel sorry about the girl. Didn't she try to stop him? Yes, she did everything she could to stop him, but he wouldn't listen to her. And what happened then? Well, the girl went to the blonde boy and pleaded with him to bring him back. Naruto stopped and looked at Sakura and continued. The blonde boy, who was madly in love with the beautiful girl, promised her to bring him back for her no matter what, because he adored her, because he cherished her, because he loved her. Sakura felt that her heart had stopped beating and her lungs had stopped asking for air. She knew that Naruto loved her more than anything, but hearing his confess again, she felt like a teenager who falls in love for the first time. Did he keep his promise? Did he bring him back? Well, it took him 5 years, but eventually he brought him back, he answered, smiling. What happened when he came back? Did they get together? Asked little Saki, anxious. No, they didn't. You see, as the time passed by, the girl had grown feelings for the blonde-haired boy, and so they got together. But one day they had a big fight and broke up. The boy felt that he had failed his love because he promised her that he would never break her heart like the black-haired boy did, and so he left the country hoping that his love will find someone better than him. I don't understand. If he felt that he hurt her feelings, then why didn't he apologize? Asked little Saki, confused. Well, sweetie, it wasn't that simple, Naruto said and looked at Sakura, who was lost in her thoughts. Why? Is there a simple and a difficult apology? Asked little Saki, confused. Both Sakura and Naruto's eyes widened in shock from what Saki asked. How many types of sorry are there? How many ways are there to apologize? Can a simple I am sorry be enough to be forgiven? Their winded eyes were facing each other when the next statement of little Saki's came. If they loved each other like you said, then the girl must have waited for his apology. Naruto looked at her daughter with his eyes even more winded. Was that true? Did she wait for him to apologize? Could it be that if he would have apologized back then, things would have been different? He looked at Sakura for answers, but when their eyes met, she just looked away with sadness in her eyes. With that action of hers, Naruto realized that if he had only run at her house back then and told her that he was sorry, they would have been together as a family. After 2 minutes of silence, little Saki spoke, bringing them back to reality. So what happened then? Naruto looked at his daughter and said, well, after a long time, the boy came back and found out that the girl had a child. His child. After that, the boy wanted to make things right, and so he went to the girl and asked her to get back together. And what did she say? Little Saki asked, anxious. She refused, he said, and looked at Sakura plaintively. But why did she refuse? Didn't she love him? He was going to answer when Sakura interrupted him. Okay, young lady, that's enough for now. Give Daddy a good night kiss and get to sleep. But I want to hear the rest of the story, little Saki complained. Stories always have a happy ending. You can hear the end of it tomorrow, she said, and kissed little Saki on the forehead, and started walking away until she reached the door. Good night, Mommy. I love you, said little Saki. Sakura then turned around and smiled. Good night, sweetie. I love you more, she said, and her gaze fell on Naruto before she left the room. Naruto smiled and a warm feeling filled his heart. Somehow he knew that her last phrase concluded him as well. Daddy, I want to hear the end of the story. Little Saki brought him back to reality. Naruto smiled and said while caressing her hair, I told you that you were going to love the story, but you must listen to what your mother says. I promise, I will tell you the story tomorrow morning, okay? How are you going to do that when you will not be here in the morning? She pouted. I promise you, I will be the one to wake you up tomorrow morning and I will cook you pancakes, he said as a smile formed on his face. Do you mean that you are going to stay with us tonight? Little Saki asked, anxious. Sure. Not so loud, it's a secret between me and you, okay? But why is it a secret? Won't Mommy be happy if you stay here? Of course she will be happy, but it is going to be a surprise. But I want to tell Mommy, Little Saki said in frustration, but smiled when she felt Naruto's lips touching her forehead. Be patient, sweetie. Good night, my little cherry blossom. Good night, Daddy. I love you, she said and hugged him tightly. I love you more, he said, smiling. Sakura was in the kitchen standing in front of the sink while drinking water. Hearing the story that Naruto had told to Little Saki made her fluster. What was he thinking telling their story? What was he trying to accomplish? Did he think that telling their story would make her vulnerable? And if that was the case, why would he want to do that? These questions were spinning like crazy inside her mind. She finished drinking her water and placed the glass in the sink when she suddenly felt two hands caressing her arms. Do you believe in it? Naruto whispered into her right ear. Feeling his touch, Sakura could only shiver as the contact between their skins sent chills down her spine. How long had it been since she had felt his touch? How long had it been since he had whispered in her ears like that? She was feeling lonely and she needed him. She wanted him. But her wounded heart was screaming out loud to not let herself be heartbroken again, because it would be the end of her. One more strike and she would be out. What do you mean? She asked calmly. Do you believe that our story will have a happy ending? He whispered again, but this time more softly. I told you before and I am going to tell you again. What we once had you destroyed. You put an end to our story the moment you left. Stories cannot be rewritten, Sakura said in a strict tone, trying to convince him and herself that everything had ended a long time ago. Hearing that made Naruto more determined. He took her arm and turned her around so he could see into her winded green emerald eyes. Look into my eyes and tell me that you hate me. Tell me that you despise me, that every time I come here, you count the minutes until I leave. Sakura's eyes couldn't open wider by the words that were coming out of Naruto's mouth. No, please, don't make me do this, she pleaded, feeling her heart being squished by something. Naruto grabbed her from her shoulders and continued, tell me you don't feel depressed when I leave this place every night. That you don't feel lonely when you go to your bed to sleep. Please stop. She pleaded again while her eyes started welling up. Tell me that you weren't going to kiss me tonight at the dance floor, that the passion I saw in your eyes was just my imagination. Tell me that you don't love me, he finished as his grip tightened at the end of his command. Stop! She shouted as her tears started falling freely down her cheeks. How can you be so demanding after all you have done? Do you know how much I had been suffering while you were away? No, you don't, so do not ask for things I cannot give you, she said, furious. What have I done, Sakura? Wasn't there a reason for doubting your feelings? Did I leave this place because I didn't love you? He said as his grip on Sakura tightened more. I know how much you have suffered. I know how much pain I have caused you because of my flight, but I had no other choice. You made me leave and you were the one who ended our relationship. But right now we are both suffering. Don't you see it, Sakura? We need each other. I can't live without you like you can't live without me. Please, Sakura, give us one last chance, he said as his eyes softened. These eyes, these beautiful blue oceanic eyes of his. How can she refuse when he is looking at her with a gaze like that? How can she refuse when she wants it too? No! I will not give anything. The last time I gave us a chance you destroyed everything. Sakura, please, I love you. That's the problem, she said as Naruto's eyes winded. You love me and yet you hurt my feelings. You love me and yet you don't have faith in me. You love me and yet you left me. You left me. You left me, she broke out, beating her fists into his chest with every word she said. Sure. It's okay, Sakura. It's all over now. I am here now, he said as he let her bury her head into his jacket, grabbing its collar, and continued crying for a few minutes while Naruto hugged her and rocked her back and forth trying to calm her down. Many questions haunted her as her sobs were the only sound that could be heard in the kitchen. Why after all the things she had just said, he was still there embracing her? He still believed in their love. Why? Maybe it was time to let her selfishness and fears go away. Maybe I should start to believe in our love as well. When you left, I blamed myself for that and I fell into depression. I wasn't eating nor getting any sleep. I was like a zombie. I almost lost Saki 2 times with my actions. I had to find something to hold on to keep me strong for little Saki's sake. That is when someone came and gave me what I was looking for. Since that day I blame you for leaving me all alone, she said as her grab tightened. Shh, say no more. Please stop crying, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done this tonight, he said, and pulled Sakura from his embrace and looked into her green emerald eyes. It seems you won't change your mind. I will leave you in peace then, and I will take the role you wanted me to take, the role of the father. His arms fell to his sides and walked past Sakura with his face looking down the floor, but he was held in place as Sakura grabbed hold of his left arm. Don't, she said in a whisper, her eyes facing the floor. All these years I was trying to persuade myself to hate you, but I couldn't. I just buried my feelings and let the others know that I don't want you in my life anymore, she said as her grab tightened and continued, but only God knows how much I have been through. How many times I lied on my bed while crying at nights. If it hadn't been for Saki, I would have been dead by now, she said as tears welled up in her eyes. Sakura, he said as he placed a hand above her grab. Sakura then turned around and looked into his eyes. I have never hated you. The only bad feeling I ever had towards you was plaintiveness. Since you came back I feel only warmness and happiness when you are in this house. I hate it when you have to leave and I feel lonely when I go for sleep. Naruto was shocked by Sakura's words. She was finally confessing her feelings and he was right there in front of her. He cupped her face with his hands. Sakura-chan, is that what I think it is? Do you? He was cut off when she immersed into his embrace and said, I can't take it anymore, I miss you, Naruto. It drives me crazy when I know you are at your house and not right here with me. You are right. We need each other, so please Naruto, don't go. Stay here for tonight. No, stay here and don't leave me again. Hearing these words made Naruto's heart jump out from joy. He hugged her tightly and placed a kiss above her head and said, I will not leave you, Sakura-chan. Not now, not ever. I will always be by your side, Sakura-chan, because I love you. Sakura tightened the hug and said, elated, I love you too. Naruto's eyes winded at the sound of the phrase he always wanted to come out of her lips. He broke their embrace and looked her in the eyes. What did you say, Sakura-chan? He asked, trying to confirm to himself that he heard right. Sakura then formed a smile and cupped his face with her palms. I said that I love you. I always have, and I will never stop loving even if it kills me, she said, and kissed him on his lips with love and warmth. Naruto's heart was beating furious by the feelings that conquered it. Love, lust, tenderness. He kissed her back with love and passion. Say it again, he pleaded. I love you, I love you, I love you, she said while kissing him with every word she said. 2 hours later the couple was lying on the bed cuddling and looking into each other's eyes. They have made love for the first time in 3 years, extinguishing the fire that had conquered not only their bodies but their souls as well. Sakura still couldn't believe that she was into his strong arms. Either could she believe that Naruto was still in love with her after the way she had treated him. She trailed her fingers on his beard until her fingers stopped on his lips. Naruto smiled as she took her hand and kissed her palm, his eyes never leaving hers. What is on your mind? He asked softly. Have you planned everything that has happened tonight? She asked, smiling. I don't know what you are talking about, Sakura-chan, he answered with an innocent look. Sakura then cupped his cheek with her right palm and said, You are such a liar. First you grew a beard, which you know how much I love it. She then ran her hand through his messy blonde hair. Then you came and asked me to dance with you. Her hand moved to his neck and traveled down, caressing his arm. She reached his hand and enclosed her own in it. Then you told that story to Saki in hopes I changed my mind on my own, but when I didn't, you persuaded me to change my mind, making me understand that we both need each other, she finished as she tightened her hold. Naruto then smiled as he kissed her hand once again. I haven't planned anything really. When you said those words tonight at the wedding, Sasuke told me that you were ready to open up your heart to me again, and then Ino told me that I should make a move. So I did what I was told and acted by instinct. and asked you to dance. While we were dancing I saw love in your eyes. Through your eyes I could listen to your soul asking me to release it from the prison you had put it in, he said as he softly caressed her arm and continued. So I decided to help you and make you understand that you need me as I need you. That you can't live without me as I can't live without you, he finished as he placed a soft kiss on her forehead. Sakura's eyes softened as a feeling of guilt filled her heart. Why? Why did you keep chasing me after blaming you for everything that had happened between us? Why, even though I said such horrible things to you, you never stopped loving me? Why didn't you give up on me? Why? She asked as tears welled up in her eyes and her gaze fell down in shame of her past acts. A weak smile formed on Naruto's face. Sakura-chan, we cannot control our feelings when it comes to love. How can you be in love with a woman that breaks your heart every single time you try to make things better? She asked him as hot tears run down her cheeks. I can do this because that's what love is all about, Sakura-chan. Love makes you feel happy and sad whenever it wants it to. It makes you believe that you are in paradise, but if you blink for a second you see that you are in hell. But that does not make us change our feelings. On the contrary, our feelings become stronger. Love hurts and heals, Sakura-chan, he finished as he pulled Sakura closer into his warm embrace and hugged her tightly. But that does not change the fact that I screwed up everything and that I acted selfishly, blaming you and accusing you for everything because I was afraid of my real feelings. I am sorry for everything, Naruto. I still can't believe that you are in love with me. After she was cut off when Naruto pulled her out of his strong arms and said, looking into her swollen eyes, Sakura-chan, I am glad that you have seen the errors of your actions, but listen to me. He placed his left hand on her right cheek, and with his thumb cleared away a hot tear. I am truly, madly, and badly in love with you. Her eyes winded at his choice of words. Naruto then formed a smile and continued, if I had one last breath I would have given it to you. If I was to lose my sight forever I would have chosen you as the last person I wanted to see before I lose it. If time could go back I would have fallen in love to you again. He took her hand and placed it on his warm chest where his heart was. This is my heart, and this is how it is loved. My heart beats only for you, Sakura-chan, and loves only you. That is the reason I kept chasing you, and that is the reason I still love you, he finished, and placed a soft kiss on her forehead. Hot tears fell again from Sakura's eyes as Naruto's true words filled her heart with happiness. What have I done to deserve you? She said, looking into his eyes as she cupped his left cheek with her right palm. Naruto then smiled as he placed his left hand on hers and kissed her softly on her lips. Just be in existence was enough for me to fall in love with the most beautiful woman in the whole world. Sakura then smiled and leaned in for a kiss, but she stopped inches away from his lips. I love you, Naruto, she said and locked her lips with hers. The sunrise had finally arrived, sending its warm beams to embrace the village hidden in the leaves. Naruto was lying on the bed holding onto his strong arms, his sleeping cherry blossom. The sun's beams lighted up the bedroom, giving their permission for the blind man to admire Sakura's sweet smile. Naruto hadn't slept all night. He was afraid that everything was just a dream, that her confession never happened. He was afraid that if his eyes were to close, the next morning he would have found himself in his cold bed without his Sakura-chan into his warm embrace. But as the sun climbed up at the sky, his fears were erased and were replaced by the warmest and most beautiful feeling, happiness. A warm smile formed on his face as he leaned in and placed a soft kiss on her beautiful forehead. I love you, he whispered into her ear. He got up from the bed and put on his trousers and left the bedroom. He headed to Saki's bedroom and opened the door. He reached for the bed and sat on it. A smile formed on his face at the similarities she had with her mother. Everything on little Saki reminded him of her mother. She was as beautiful as her mother. A lone tear fell from his right eye as a realization hit him. He was going to spend the rest of his life with the two women he loved the most. He will get the chance to learn what it's like to be a family. He will get the chance to learn what it's like to watch a child grow up and teach it the values of love, friendship, and devotion. He placed a hand on her silky hair and said softly, sweetie, wake up. It's time for pancakes. Little Saki opened her sleepy eyes and looked up at her father. Good morning, Daddy, she said, smiling as she sat up. Good morning, my little cherry blossom. Saki then embraced tightly her father and said with joy, Daddy, you kept your promise. You are here. Naruto returned the hug. Yes, sweetie, I am here now. I will never leave you again. I promise, he said as he tightened the embrace and placed a kiss on top of her head. A minute later little Saki broke the hug and looked up at his father. Does that mean you are going to finish the story? She asked anxiously. Naruto then smiled and said, Yes, I will finish the story, but first I am going to make you pancakes for breakfast as I promised. Can I help with the pancakes, please? She pleaded. Of course you can, he answered back, the smile never leaving his face. Yeah. I am going to make pancakes with Daddy. Little Saki shouted out loud with happiness. 20 minutes later Naruto was sitting on a chair next to the table with little Saki sitting on his knees. He cut a pancake into pieces, and with a fork he placed a piece of pancake into her small mouth. Well? How is it? Do you like it? Naruto asked a few minutes later. It's great, Dada Bayo. Little Saki shouted as she took the fork and started eating on her own. Naruto then smiled and said, I am glad that you liked it, and I am glad you didn't make ramen for breakfast, Sakura said smiling as she stepped into the kitchen. Good morning, Sakura-chan, Naruto said as his eyes locked with hers. Good morning, Naruto, she said as she reached them and placed a kiss on top of Saki's head and said, her eyes never leaving his. Good morning, sweetie. Good morning, mommy. Look, mommy, Daddy is here. He is going to stay with us forever. Little Saki said cheerfully. I am glad he will, she said as her green emerald eyes were still locked with his blue oceanic ones. After a moment of silence Saki looked at her parents and said, Kiss. Both eyes winded by what Saki said, but then their eyes softened and on their faces formed smiles of happiness. They leaned in for a kiss when they stopped inches away. Their smiles became grins as they leaned in and kissed Saki's cheeks. Little Saki giggled at her parents' actions, and Naruto ruffled her silky pink hair. Naruto then took his own fork and started eating his pancake, but then stopped by little Saki's question. Daddy, are you going to finish the story now? Little Saki asked anxiously. Naruto then smiled and placed the fork down. He was about to answer when Sakura came and sat on a chair next to them and said, I will finish the story for you. But you don't know the story, Saki said puzzled. Believe me, sweetie. I know the story as much as your daddy does, she said while looking in Naruto's blue oceanic eyes. Okay, so last night you asked Daddy if the girl loved the boy, right? Hi, your answer to your question is that she did love him, she said as she looked at him with seriousness. Then why did she refuse to get back together? She asked puzzled. She did that because she was an idiot, Sakura answered back as her eyes softened as she felt a piercing pain in her heart. Why was she an idiot? Little Saki asked, confusion taking the best of her. She was about to answer when Naruto placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder and said as he smiled at her, You don't know the story after all, Sakura-chan. What are? You see, honey, the girl didn't want to go back. Because she was a coward, Naruto interrupted the pink-haired woman. She was a coward to what? Little Saki asked muddled. To love, he answered as his blue oceanic eyes met with Sakura's green emerald ones. I don't understand. Naruto then looked down at her and said she was afraid to love. How was that even possible when she already loved him? Little Saki asked, still confused. Well, you see, even though she did love him, she did not want to go back to him because she was afraid to get hurt again. I still don't understand. Naruto then smiled and caressed her soft pink hair. Let me give you an example. Do you remember when you fell from the swing a while ago? He asked as Saki winced at the memory and nodded. Do you feel like sitting on a swing again? No. Why? Because I am afraid. Exactly. Just like you don't want to sit on a swing, thus the girl didn't want to go back to him. Saki nodded in understanding and asked after a few seconds of silence, and what happened then? The boy didn't give up on her. He still believed in their love. One day he talked to her and persuaded her to change her mind. And he did it? She asked, anxious. Of course he did it, he answered back as he winked at her. What did he say to her that made her change her mind? Little Saki asked excitedly. Naruto locked his eyes with Sakura's again and said as a warm feeling filled his heart. He said that he loved her more than anything, that he couldn't live a life without her, as she couldn't live a life without him. He said that they needed each other because without one other they only suffered. Sakura then took his left hand and enclosed her own in it. The girl thought for a while and realized that he was right and that she should believe in their love like he did, she said as she stroked his hand with her thumb. And what happened next? Did she kiss him? Little Saki asked anxiously. Both parents smiled at Saki's enthusiasm. Yes, she did, Naruto answered. And they got back together? Little Saki asked as she looked at her mother. Yes, they did, Sakura answered as a warm smile formed on her face and locked her eyes with his once again. Little Saki sighed in relief and said, "That is a relief. If they didn't get back together, it would have been the worst story I have ever heard." Saki didn't get any response and looked up to see her parents staring at each other with love. She smiled as only a word came into her mind again: kiss. Their gazes fell on Saki and up to meet each other again. Sakura then stood up and got close to him. She cupped his right cheek and leaned in and placed a soft kiss on his lips. "I love you, Naruto," she said as she caressed his cheek. "I love you too, Sakura-chan," he said as he took her hand and kissed it gently. It had been 7 months since Sakura and Naruto got back together, and their friends were happy for the young couple. But the happiest person was their little daughter, Saki, who had finally had her father 24 hours a day next to her side. She was happy that her daddy could finally stay at their house and sometimes could sleep in his warm embrace. Since that night, the young couple has been inseparable. The love they had for each other was growing bigger by the day. For Sakura, life continued from that night 3 years ago, before their fight. She believed that those dreadful years that had passed by was just a nightmare and that her beloved one had awakened her. But she had made it clear to herself that she will not make the same mistakes again, and she swore an oath to never hurt his feelings again, to never break his heart again, to make him happy. She swore an oath to never stop telling him how much she loved him. For Naruto, things were complicated. 1 month after they got back together, he thought that he was happy and completed. But every night he returned home, he was feeling suffocated. Every time he said goodnight to his daughter, a feeling of worry filled his heart when the door closed. And every time he was lying on the bed with his cherry blossoms in his warm embrace, he was feeling anxious without knowing the reason. After a lot of thought, he came to the conclusion that something was missing and that little something was preventing him from completing it. So he decided to make one more move to be the happiest man in the whole world. It was a beautiful day in Konoha as the sun was shining brightly in the middle of the sky, letting the people know that it was midday. A pink-haired Kunoichi was sitting on her chair thinking about an earlier conversation she had with a relative of a patient whom she had performed an operation on. Flashback. It was 8 o'clock in the morning when Sakura came out from the operation room and headed towards the 2 anxious figures that were sitting outside. "Well? How did Haruno-sama go?" a tall, black-haired man asked anxiously. "Everything went just fine, Saito-san. I am not going to lie. It was a difficult operation, but your wife is a strong woman, and she will make her survive the operation. Now she needs rest so she can recover," she answered in a cheerful manner, but her eyes widened in shock as the man out of the blue embraced her tightly and said, "Thank you? Thank you for saving my wife, Haruno-sama. I don't know what I would have done if my wife was to." "You don't have to say things like that, Saito-san. Your wife is safe now." End of flashback. Wife. A simple yet beautiful word, she said to herself. She sighed as she stood up and headed towards the window. She stood there looking outside the village in all its glory. She saw 2 birds flying happily together in the blue sky. Her gaze fell down as she saw a man and a woman walking alongside, and between them was a little boy holding their hands. A sweet smile formed on her face as the man took the boy into his arms, and with a maneuver he placed him on his shoulders, making the boy shout out loud while waving his small hands up into the air. The man laughed at his excitement, and the woman gently caressed his arm with a frown on her face, probably telling him how dangerous his action was. Her thoughts were interrupted when a knock came at her door. "Come inside," she said, and the door opened to reveal a smiling Ino. "Hey Forehead, I heard the operation went well today." "Congratulations," she said as she sat on a chair across Sakura's seat. "Thank you, Ino," she smiled back at her. "So how are you doing? How are things between you and Naruto?" "I am doing well. I and Naruto are happy for having each other," she answered as a warm smile formed on her face. "That's great. Yeah, I guess," she said as she looked outside through the window. "Sakura, what is wrong? Did something happen?" she asked anxiously as worry filled her blue oceanic eyes. No, nothing happened, Ino. Do not worry." "Then what is wrong with you? Why do you have that weird look on your face?" she asked, frustrated. Sakura sighed. She knew that Ino could understand whenever she was down or not. "Can I ask you a question?" she asked while looking at her. "Are you nuts or something?" "You can ask me anything you want, Sakura. That is what friends are for," she said, smiling at her. Sakura then took a deep breath and asked, "What is it like to be in a marriage?" "Oh my god, Sakura, did he propose to you?" Ino asked as a feeling of happiness filled her heart. No, he didn't. She blinked for a moment, and after a few seconds she started laughing. Don't tell me you proposed to him. What? Are you stupid or something? Of course I didn't propose to him, she scoffed. Then why are you asking me these questions? First, I only asked one question, and second, I was just wondering if a marriage makes any difference from just living with someone whom you have a child with. So you were just wondering? Yes, liar. What? You are a terrible liar, you know that? You are asking me this question because you want to marry him, but because he hasn't proposed yet. You hope that a marriage isn't that important, right? She said as a grin formed on her face. How did you figure that out? I am your friend, remember? A long silence filled the room as both of them were lost in their thoughts. So you want to marry him? She asked in a tizzy manner. Is it too absurd to ask? We love each other, and we live under the same roof. We share the same bed and we have a child together, she said and looked away as she crossed her arms on her chest. Oh really? Last time I remember, having a child with him wasn't a reason to get married, she said sarcastically. Shut up, Ino. It was different back then. No, it wasn't. It is the same thing, just accept that you were being wrong back then and shut up. You are right, I am sorry. The idea came to me this morning after the operation when I spoke with the patient's husband. He kept calling her my wife, and the feelings he passed to me. She sighed and looked through the window. So you think that something is wrong with Naruto because he hasn't proposed to you yet? Ino asked as Sakura crossed her arms on her chest and nodded. Have you thought about what the reason might be? Sakura sighed and rubbed her neck as she sat on her chair across Ino and said, I think he is afraid to do it. Why would he be afraid? She asked, curious. Back then, when we broke up that night, he was going to propose but it didn't go well. Maybe he is afraid that it will happen again. I think that you are overthinking. You are forgetting that Naruto isn't an ordinary man. He never gives up and he isn't afraid of rejection. Sakura sighed again in frustration and said, You are right, Ino. I am sorry for being stupid. It's my hormones. They are at their highest levels lately and I can't think clearly. Then asked Naruto to turn down the heat, she said, grinning, and winked at her. I am afraid. It will only be a temporary solution for the next 8 months, she answered as a warm smile formed on her face. Oh my god, Sakura, you are pregnant. That is the same reaction I got from you almost 4 years ago. You are so boring, she teased as Ino stood up and approached the pink-haired Kunoichi, embracing her warmly. Shut up, forehead, she said as Sakura returned the hug. Have you told him yet? No, I haven't. I just found out today, she answered, smiling, her face shining with happiness. He will be thrilled when he finds out about it, Ino said, grinning. I think he will pass out, she said, and they both started laughing. Sakura was about to say something when the door opened and revealed a grinning, blonde-haired man running towards Sakura. Sakura-chan! He shouted as he scooped her off her feet and spanned themselves while holding her by her waist. Naruto, what happened? She asked, smiling. I am the happiest man in the whole world, he said as he continued spinning themselves around. Naruto, if you continue doing that I am going to puke, she warned him while Ino was laughing at the sideshow in front of her. Naruto then stopped and put her gently down, but he kept holding her into his warm embrace. Sakura then looked up into his blue oceanic eyes and with her right palm she softly stroked his left cheek. What happened to you and you are so excited? Who am I? He asked as he placed his hands above her shoulders. What do you mean, who are you? Sakura asked, confused. Just answer to my question, Sakura-chan. Who am I? You are Naruto. Wrong answer. Try again. You are my man, she said in a playful tone. I like that, but it's not what I want to hear. Try again. You are the hero of Konoha. Wrong again, but you are getting close. For Kami's sake, Naruto, stop this game and tell me already, she said, frustrated. Alright, I will tell you. He then broke the embrace and stood in front of the women. My ladies, in front of you stands the next Hokage of Konoha, he said and bowed. Oh my god, you are going to be Hokage, she said and hugged him tightly. I am so proud of you, Naruto. Your dream is becoming reality. Congratulations, Naruto. You deserve it, Ino said and patted him friendly on his shoulder. Thanks, Ino, he thanked and broke the embrace. He then cupped Sakura's face with his hands and said while gazing in her green emerald eyes, Today, it is a special day, so we are going to celebrate the both of us. Put on the most beautiful dress you have and I will take you to the most breathtaking place. But what about Saki? I would love to have her with us, but this night is just for the two of us. I am sure Ino can take care of our daughter for the night, he said as he winked at Ino. Of course, there is no need to worry, forehead. Okay then. Great. I will see you tonight then, he said as he placed a kiss on her forehead. Goodbye and thank you, Ino, he said as he closed the door behind him. Someone is going to have some fun tonight. Do you want any advice about the after-dinner party? She asked in a tizzy manner. Shut up, Ino Big, she said as a pink hue formed on her cheeks. He is so happy, Ino said after a few minutes of silence. Wait until he hears about the baby. They were walking through the streets of Konoha holding each other's hand as the full moon was shining brightly in the night sky while the bright stars were dancing at the rhythm of their brightness. 10 minutes later they were outside of the busy streets, and only a displayed by beautiful white stepping stones road was guiding them to their destination. Naruto, where are we going? I thought you said about going to a restaurant. She asked, confused. No, I said that we are going to the most breathtaking place. I have never said anything about going to a restaurant, he said as he smiled warmly. Okay then, where are we going? She asked, curious. There, he said as he pointed with his finger at the site in front of them. Sakura looked at the direction his hand was showing and her eyes winded as she understood where they were. They were at a place she hated the most. It was a place where her dreams had frozen, where her heart had broken. It was a place where two hearts were hurt because of her ego. They were at the fourth Hokage's head. Naruto, what? She couldn't voice a word because of her bewilderment. Sakura-chan, I know this place isn't your favorite one since that night when we broke up. Either do I feel so comfortable in this place. But I love this place, Sakura-chan, and I want us to forget that hurtful memory and make new, happy memories starting tonight, he finished, and he looked to his left, making Sakura follow his gaze. A warm smile formed on her face. Just a few meters away there has been a small circular table with two chairs placed across one another. On the table there were two dishes that were covered with some covers and two classes for each one. In the middle of the table there were two burning candles while their small flames danced a romantic rhythm. What got her attention though were the little candles that were laying down the ground and together took the shape of a heart. He was trying really hard to make this place lovable for both of them, and she wasn't going to disappoint him. She took him by his hand and said, Okay then, let's make new memories. Half an hour later, the young couple was having fun discussing everything as the full moon above them was trying its best to make the perfect atmosphere, asking its little friends, the stars, for more gleaming. So how have you been told about your promotion? Tsunade-sama called me this morning and said that I should stop playing around all day with Saki, and that it is time for me to get serious if I ever want to be Hokage in a year from now. She is right, you know. Since you came back you haven't done any training and you haven't taken any missions. I just wanted to fill the 3-year gap between me and our daughter, he said as a sad smile formed on his face. You are a great father, Naruto. Saki is the luckiest child for having you as her father, she said in a soft voice as she placed her hand above his and caressed it. Thank you, he said as he placed a soft kiss above her hand. So, what is the first thing you will do as a Hokage? She asked, trying to change the subject. I don't know, there are lots of things I want to do, he said with a grin. Sakura's eyes softened and stood up. She got near to him and sat on his knees. She then placed a soft kiss on his nose and embraced him tightly. I am so proud of you, Naruto. Your dream is becoming reality at last. Not just yet, he said as he motioned her to stand up. He then stood up too and took her hand in his. Dance with me, Sakura-chan. But there isn't any music. I will be the music, he said as he placed her in his strong arms while looking into her green emerald eyes. So a dance with me will make your dream reality? No, this is the key to my dream. I think you drank a lot of wine. I can't understand you tonight. Sure, be patient, my love, he said as he placed his finger above her lips. So what song is the romantic guy going to sing? She asked in a playful manner. Naruto then smiled and placed a kiss on her forehead and asked, Do you remember what song was playing when we danced at Hinata's wedding? No, I don't remember. I was so lost into your eyes. I didn't give any attention on the song. You should have given attention, he said and kissed her right hand. Sakura didn't say anything. She waited for him to start singing the song. Naruto then took her hands and placed them around his neck and pulled her closer to his chest, letting her to feel his warmth. He started moving, leading her in a loving and sensual dance while humming a melody. How can a moment change my life? It's magic, I would say, he smiled and caressed her cheek. How can a kiss touch my soul? It's every human's prey for every day, he continued and kissed her softly on the lips. I know I am blissful with the one I fall for. And now in my arms, I have everything I wish for. He scooped her up bridal style and spun themselves around as the full moon caressed them gently with its warm brightness. Sakura laughed as Naruto buried his face into her neck and kissed it. They looked at each other deep in their souls as warmth filled with happiness smiles formed on their faces. So, am I everything you wished for? She asked while caressing softly his cheek. Yes, you are everything I wished for and everything I dreamed of, he whispered in a manner that sent chills down her spine. You know, I should be the one to make a special night for your promotion, not the other way around. You are the next Hokage, not me. Well, if you insist, you can make this night special when we get back home, he said with a grin as he winked at her. You are such a... She said as she punched him playfully on his arm and continued, but seriously, Naruto, I should. Sakura-chan, this is how I wanted to celebrate it, making the perfect night for the perfect woman. But, hush my love and let me sing the chorus. A smile formed on her face as she remembered the chorus of the song. I have a better idea. Let's sing it together. Okay, he said as they started moving again in a slow rhythm. As long as the earth goes around, I will love you, they started singing as Naruto placed her down on her feet and put her into his warm embrace as she placed her silky hands above his warm chest. As long as I can and breathe I will say it, he leaned in and placed a kiss on her forehead. And as their foreheads touched one another and their eyes met, exchanging different kinds of emotions, she placed a finger above his lips and sang the last sentence of the chorus. As long as the sun shines here, I will say that I will always love you. She finished the chorus and removed her finger as she leaned in for a kiss. And as their lips touched, sending messages of love and passion to each other, the moon above them shined triumphantly along with the stars, for once more two souls united as one. They broke the kiss as the need for fresh air conquered them, but Naruto cupped her face with his big warm palms and looked into her green emerald eyes. Marry my Sakura-chan. Sakura was taken aback by the sudden statement. Her heart was beating fast. Her lungs had stopped asking for air and she felt her stomach getting tight. Did he just propose? She asked herself. Sakura-chan, I love you so much. I can't imagine a life without you. We live under the same roof. We have a daughter together, but this is not enough for me. I am going to be Hokage, a dream that I dreamed of since I can remember myself, and yet it is not enough for me. I want you to be my wife when that day comes. If you would only marry me and become my wife, then I will be completed. When that day comes, I want everyone to know you as the wife of their Hokage. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, not only as my love of my life but also as my wife. And he was cut off from Sakura as she silenced him, smashing his lips with hers. Naruto was in shock at her action, but as he felt the warmth of her lips on his eyes softened and brought her closer, returning the kiss with the same love and passion. And as their lips parted and their eyes met, Sakura caressed his cheek and said with a smile, I thought you would never ask. His eyes widened in shock at her answer but then softened, and a warm smile formed on his face. Is that a yes? He asked as his eyes started welling up. Oh my stupid baka. Of course it's a yes, she answered and placed a kiss on top of his nose as a few tears fell down her cheeks. Naruto then embraced her tightly and lifted her up. She said yes. Thank you God. He kept repeating while spinning themselves around. Sakura wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face between his neck and his collarbone as a few tears ran down her cheeks once again. At last I made him happy, she said to herself as Naruto put her down to her feet. I have something for you, he said as he took out from his pocket a small dark blue box. Inside of the box there was a ring, but not just any ring. It was the ring he gave her 3.5 years ago. I know this ring brings you sad memories, but I believe that this ring proves how strong and unique our love is. And because of this our love managed to survive through the tempest of our problems. He wore her the ring and brought her hand to his lips and kissed it softly. He looked up and met her watered eyes and a feeling of worry filled his heart. She doesn't like the ring. She doesn't want that same ring. Did I hurt her feelings? Am I going to lose her again? His fears were erased when out of the blue Sakura embraced him tightly, and she placed a kiss on his neck. Naruto, tonight you made me the luckiest and happiest woman on the earth. I love you so much. Hearing the phrase, he couldn't help but let the tears fall freely down his cheeks and return the hug with the same love and affection. Sakura looked at him and saw the tears and said, smiling as she wiped them out with her thumbs, I thought you were stronger than me when it comes to feelings. What will you do when I tell you about the baby? What baby? He asked bemused. Sakura then took his hands and placed them protectively above her flat abdomen. I am pregnant, she said, smiling as she looked him with soft eyes. What? I mean, how? He asked, still in shock from what he heard. I ordered it from the Pelican Company, she said playfully. Eh? Naruto said, still confused. Naruto, are you listening to yourself? How did I get pregnant? I mean, of course I know how you got pregnant. There is only one way to get pregnant. It is only natural, and now I am going to be a father for a second time. Oh my god, Sakura-chan, you are pregnant! He burst out, kissing incessantly her lips and cheeks. Sakura smiled at his reaction, and she happily welcomed his kisses. After a few seconds, Naruto stopped and looked at her anxiously. The apartment is too small. We will have to move into a bigger one with more rooms and a garden and a playground. What am I saying? An apartment doesn't have a garden or a playground. We must buy a house, he said, terrified. Honey, calm down. Everything will be just fine, she said as she softly caressed his cheek. I am sorry. I just want the best for Saki and our son. Excuse me? How do you know it's a boy and not a girl? She asked playfully. I just know it. We already have a beautiful daughter. It's about time for our son to be born, he answered, grinning. Don't get your hopes too high, Naruto, or else you will be disappointed, she said, trying to play with him. Nah, it's a boy, Sakura-chan. I bet on it, he said passionately. Is that so? I am in then. If it's a boy, I will be helping you with your duties when you become Hokage. But if it's a girl, you will be taking care of her. And what I mean is that you will be changing diapers, and at night when she awakes you will be the one to get up, Sakura said, grinning. I accept the best, Adebayo. Everything had taken their right way. His cherry blossom was only laughing. His little daughter was growing bigger and smarter by the day, and also his cherry blossom was with their second child. He was going to become Hokage in a year, but nothing could make him happier than having a complete family around him. 7 months had passed by, and it was about time for Sakura to give birth to their child into this world. It was 6 o'clock in the morning when Sakura had her waters broken. Naruto was terrified when she woke him up. He didn't know what to do. He was ready to crumble, but he tried his best to calm himself. Sakura, on the other hand, was enjoying what was happening in front of her. When she took the suitcase, which was filled with clothes of hers and her baby's, Naruto stopped her and took her bridal style, saying that he would bring it later. On their way to the hospital, Sakura thought that this time was different, and that she had Naruto by her side and nothing could destroy her happiness. Being in his embrace felt only warmth and secure. This time everything would be just like it should be. It was 12 o'clock at noon when Sakura started having contractions, and they took her to the operation room. Knowing Sakura's past, Tsunade did not let Naruto get in because if something were to happen he wouldn't let her do her job. Half an hour later, Tsunade came out and asked permission from Naruto so she could perform a cesarean on Sakura. Naruto at first was worried, but then Tsunade calmed him down, explaining to him that it's physical for some women to give birth by performing cesarean. Half an hour had passed and Sakura hadn't gotten out of the operation room yet. Naruto was worried as a result, pacing back and forth through the hallway of the hospital. Will you stop pacing? You dug a hole through this hallway, Sasuke, his best friend said, smiling, trying to calm him down. Ha ha ha. Very funny, Sasuke. I am not in a mood right now, Sasuke, so cut the jokes. Hey, calm down, he said in a serious tone. How can I calm down when Tsunade-sama didn't let me go inside? How can I calm down when she is still inside that room? Don't worry, Naruto. She is going to be just fine. Really? And how do you know that? I know it because this time you are around. I hope you are right, he said and sighed in frustration. I always say the right thing, he said, smiling. Before he could say anything, the doors of the operation room opened and revealed a smiling Tsunade. Naruto approached her and asked, anxious, how is Sakura-chan? She is fine, Naruto. What happened there? Why did you ask for my permission for a cesarean? Naruto asked, still in worry for the health of his wife. Her pelvis is too small and the babies couldn't come out, so we had to operate a cesarean, she answered back as she formed a smile as she pronounced the phrase babies. Ba babies? Naruto asked, dumbfounded. Yes, Sakura just brought twins into this world. 2 beautiful girls. Twins? Gee, girls? He asked, feeling a mix of emotions of fear and happiness at the same time. Congratulations, Dobe? Sasuke said as he patted him friendly on his shoulder. Thank you, Naruto said, still in shock from the news. After a few seconds, Naruto looked again at Tsunade, and in seriousness, Tsunade-sama, how come you didn't know that Sakura-chan's pelvis was small since she has already given birth to Saki? When she was giving birth to Saki, her organism was already too weak, and so I decided to perform a cesarean. Stop worrying and go to say hello to your 2 newborn daughters. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when Sakura opened her eyes to see her lovely husband smiling at her while holding her right hand tightly. Hey, he whispered as he placed a kiss on her forehead. Hey, she answered back smiling. How are you feeling? He asked softly as he caressed her smooth, pale cheek. Tired, she answered back as she placed her hand above his. Is there anything you need? Just you being here with me is all I need, she answered back as she took his hand and kissed his palm. Naruto then smiled and said, there must be something you are dying to have right now. Well, there is something I am dying to have, she answered while looking at him softly. Anything you want, Sakura-chan. Kiss me, she pleaded. Is that all? I could start kissing you until I am out of breath, he said, smiling as he leaned and started kissing her passionately. After a while, Sakura tried to end the kiss, but Naruto didn't let her. After a lot of effort, Sakura spoke through the kiss. Naruto, I said I wanted a kiss. I don't remember wanting a breathtaking kiss. I can't help it. I can't get enough of my cherry blossom, he said as he placed a soft kiss on her cheek. Before they could say anything, the door opened and revealed Sasuke having little Mamoru sitting on his shoulders and Ino holding Ami's and little Saki's hands. Mommy! Little Saki shouted with joy and ran over to her mother as she climbed on the bed and hugged her mother tightly. Hey sweetie, Sakura said, smiling as she caressed her hair, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. Are you okay, mommy? Does it hurt? I was a little worried. Sakura smiled and looked at Naruto, who smiled as well, and said as he took little Saki into his embrace. Don't worry, honey, your mother is fine. Don't forget that she is the strongest amongst the whole village. Nothing can go against her brute strength, Dadabayo. Dadabayo. Little Saki shouted as she waved her small hands up into the air. Hey! Do you have anything against my strength? Sakura said as she punched his arm lightly, and everyone laughed. So you lost the bet, Naruto? Sasuke said, grinning. Shut up, Team Naruto said, but both Ino and Sasuke started laughing. Wait a second, Sakura said, and everyone stared at her. Did I give birth to daughters? What? Wait a minute. Did you know about having twins and didn't tell me about it? He asked curiously. Well, yes, I knew about it. I wanted to be a surprise hopper for a boy and a girl, but I never thought they were going to be daughters. Surprise! She said, and everyone started laughing. So I have 2 sisters now? Little Saki asked her father, but before he could answer, Sasuke interrupted him. Yes, sweetie, and someone is going to take care of them all by his own, he said, and started laughing again. You are wrong, Sasuke. Don't think that you are out of the box, he said with famous grin. What do you mean? Sasuke asked, curious. What I mean is that you are going to help me with the twins. Who said I was going to help you with the twins? I said it just now. I saved your butt and you owe me. It's about time to pay me for the extra time I spent on you, he said, grinning. I didn't ask for your help, so I owe nothing. And besides, I will have my own children to take care in a few months. Naruto was speechless by Sasuke's words. He then turned his gaze at Ino and asked, Ino, are you? He tried to ask as Ino only nodded in confirmation. Naruto then turned around and saw that everyone were smiling. Wait, you already knew about this? He asked Sakura. Yes, I knew, she answered kindly. Why am I always the last one to hear the news? He asked, smiling as he gave into a friendly hug and said, Congratulations, Ino. Thank you, Naruto. Ino thanked him and returned the hug. So, have you seen the babies yet? Ino said as she sat right next to Sakura. No, we haven't seen them yet, Naruto answered Sakura. Sakura then turned at him puzzled and asked him, Why haven't you seen them in Naruto? I thought it would have been better to see them together, Naruto said, smiling as he caressed her soft pink hair. And the sensitive one spoke, Sasuke said jokingly. Naruto was going to answer, but before he could say anything, the door opened and revealed 2 nurses, each one holding a baby in their arms. As they reached for Sakura, the first nurse gave her first daughter and Ino took the second one. Congratulations, forehead, they are like angels, Ino said as she caressed the baby's little head. Thank you, Ino, Sakura said with a big smile. Hey sweetie, she said as she trailed a finger on her tiny little face. Naruto sat next to her and watched in silence while his cherry blossom was caressing their daughter. He was going to speak when Ino came next to him, and said, "Hey Naruto, there is another beautiful girl who is dying to meet her father." "Who? Me? No, the guy from the cafeteria, of course you. Do you see anyone else in here? Go on and take your daughter." I can't do this. What if she falls from my hands? She is too small. Don't you worry, Naruto. You will be fine, Sakura said. But what if? Naruto, shut up and take the baby, Ino said, irritated. Okay, Naruto said, scared. He had learned long ago to not play with his life when it came to Sakura's and Ino's temperature. He opened his arms and Ino placed the baby in it. As he took her into his warm embrace, a warm feeling conquered his heart. She was like an angel. She had blonde hair like her father's and green emerald eyes like her mother's. There was a 5 minutes of silence when Ino spoke, looking at Sasuke. Okay, we should leave the family alone. Don't you think, Sasuke? I guess you are right. See you soon, guys. I can't wait to watch Naruto changing tapers, Sasuke said, and looked at Naruto, who didn't give any attention at his words. Thank you for coming, Sakura said, smiling. Ino only nodded and then left the room with the rest of her family. Mommy, are they going to be sleeping with me? Little Saki asked. Sakura smiled at the question and answered, when they will grow up a little, they will be sleeping at your room. Yeah. I will protect them with my life database. Little Saki shouted with excitement, but then stopped and asked, curious. Mommy, why is Daddy crying? Sakura turned at Naruto, who was watching his little daughter while tears of happiness were running down his cheeks. She then turned her gaze back to little Saki and answered to her question. He is crying because he is happy, sweetie. Sakura then turned her gaze again at Naruto and said, Hey Naruto, there's one more little girl who wants to meet her daddy. Ha! What did you say about Sakura-chan? I said there's one more little girl who wants to meet her baka father, Sakura answered back with a smile forming on her face. Naruto then looked at his daughter, who was held by his cherry blossom. She looked just like his other daughter, only she had blue eyes instead of green. Tears of happiness fell again from Naruto's eyes as the baby yawned. Are you crying again? I thought I was the sensitive one, she said as she gently caressed his left cheek. I am just so happy I have a big family, he said as he placed a hand above her. What will we name them? Little Saki asked curiously. Well, that is a good question. Don't you agree with Sakura-chan? Hey, what's with that look on your face? Well, if I knew that we were having twins, I will have thought some names. Oh, don't be a baka. All I wanted was to surprise you, she said, and turned her face away to hide her embarrassment. You sure did, he said, smiling as he placed a hand on her shoulder and tightened his grip. So what names will we give them? Sakura asked as he faced him. Naruto looked at the baby he was holding and stared at it for a while. Her gold blonde hair combined with her shined green emerald eyes gave him the one and only name could express her characteristics. Hoshiko, he said as he placed a soft kiss on her tiny forehead. How did you come up with that name? Sakura asked, smiling, for naming their daughter Star. She shines like the stars, and when you look into her eyes, you get lost in them like you'd get lost when you are watching the stars in the night sky, he answered while looking into Sakura's green emerald eyes. Just like I get lost in your beautiful eyes, he completed and placed a soft kiss on her lips. After a few moments, Sakura said as she looked at the baby she was holding. Well, in that case you will be named Tenchi, she said as she caressed softly her cheek. What do you mean in that case? He asked, wondering in what case she named the baby Angel. Because she looks just like the angel I have by my side, she answered as she softly kissed his cheek. Hello Hoshiko, hello Tenchi. My name is Saki and I will be your older sister, little Saki said excitedly as she climbed on the bed. The parents smiled at her little announcement. They then looked at each other and leaned in for a kiss but stopped inches away. Thank you, Sakura-chan. You made me the happiest and most completed man in the whole world. I love you, my cherry blossom. I love you too, Naruto, she said, and their lips finally met, giving promises of loyalty and devotion. Promises that they will always love each other. Promises that the future ahead of them will be full of love, warmth, and happiness. But they promised one more thing. They promised to never stop telling that simple and yet full of meaning phrase to each other. I love you.